Keir Starmer was spotted coming out the ballet, you see, and the journalist goes over to him and says, "So Keir, did you enjoy that ballet?" He said, "Oh yes, I particularly enjoyed it, especially the mechanical ballerina." The journalist says, "But there isn't a mechanical ballerina in Swan Lake." He said, "Oh yes, there is. I heard my security officer talking to the other security chap, and he said I'd like to screw the arse off her." Good evening. We've just lost our audience there. I thought it's best to start on a very low, smutty level and then go sort of deteriorate from there on. So anyway, welcome to Fockham All Rail Transport Specialists, or in short, farts.
Good evening, Chris. That took me ages to come up with that. I tell you, I was trying to think of something that would relate to.
Brilliant one. That is brilliant one. Farts. Yes, it's farts. Over to farts. Because, let's face it, the establishment loves sort of synonyms for things. They love to shorten things down. Yeah. Yes, it's over to him. And that. But let's have a quick shufty see who's in chat tonight. Let's have a quick look. It's Sue Sparkle. So, hello, Sue. Good evening, everyone. And we got the walloping. Now then. That's it. So there we go. And it's a very warm night here in Englandshire, isn't it? Or in Fockhamshire, or wherever you are.
It's very warm, yes.
It's far. Well, tonight, you see, we're going to savour the delights of architecture. And having worked in it for many years, something's a bit close to my heart, or fart, whatever way you want to look at it, you see. And the thing is that, hang on, Sue says it's very warm here in Lancashire. Are you sure? Does it get warm in Lancashire? I mean,
is it warm rain?
Yes, I mean, warm Lancashire? I didn't think they knew what it was in Lancashire. Sorry, I'm joking. But no, with architecture, what I'm going to discuss tonight is that when I first studied it, the thing that was told to us was it works on the subconscious. Now think about it. Architecture works on the subconscious. So my question that I put to a lot of architects, and I was shouted down, and all this, was, hang on, Paul English has said, "You and your guests are way too loud." I know we are. I shouldn't have worn this shirt. I mean, it's a bit loud. One moment. It's now adjustment time. So let's go. Let's see what we can do with this.
Would you like me to talk to myself for a minute?
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to adjust it down a little bit there. Right. I think I'll have to do this in StreamYard. Let's have a look. I've got to get this bleeding sound right one day, you know. So let's adjust my mic, first of all. Mic settings. I'm going to take mine down a little bit, and then I'll take your mic down a little bit. Mic settings, here we are. Take
Here
yours
is he.
a bit. Right, as on mic settings there. And I think we might be okay there. So, is that all right, Paul?
If you're asking me, you sound okay to me, but
we're still a bit loud. I'm going to shunt that. Right, I think that's a little bit. Shunt that down a little bit lower. Put that down a bit lower. Yes, I think that might do something. Yes, sorry about all these technical things, but Paul English has got his technical trousers tonight on, so you know he's just trying to sort things out. So there we are.
They're not different colours, are they? It might be technicolor.
And that's very kind. That's life, but not as we know it. Sound is fine. That's very kind. Thank you. And then we got Mark Anthony, evening all. And we got DJ B2, hi all. And for some unknown reason, I can hear myself speaking. So I think I will put that there. And I think that's solved the problem. Here we go. No, it hasn't. I'll sod it. I think we'll have to just go with it. Let's do some mic settings with mine. Right, I'll do that. That should set it up okay. Right, architecture. Now, the big problem that we have with architecture is, putting it bluntly, it's gone tits up. And what do you think? It registers on your subconscious. And you mentioned something, Paul, before we came on air, that cars are looking demonic. Have you
Yes.
noticed buildings are looking a bit demonic?
I think they certainly seem to lack any form of character now. They're just
Hmm,
I mean, where I work, we've got some new buildings being put up there, which basically look like glorified Meccano kits, basically.
that's right.
All bit of concrete and a bit of cladding around the outside. It's just, there's no thought into the design. There's no thought, how will this look in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, when it's been, when the weather's got at it and all the rest of it. It just,
That's right.
there's a lot of, there's a lack of character to modern buildings and something you don't get with the old order, the old, if you want to class them
Well,
as the old world stuff.
the thing is, we lost it, I think, in 1914 because before then it was Art Nouveau. And then Art Nouveau carried on in America until about 1927. And then we went into Art Deco and all that crap. And then we got modern, which was 60s. And then we went into postmodern. And then there's brutal architecture, brutalist architecture. Now I'm going to show you a building now. Now, sick bags at ready, please. Here we come. And bingo. Yes, it's by Erno Goldfinger, and that is Trellick Tower. What a shithole that is. I mean, that
No,
is in Hammersmith, London.
now
By
I've got to
Erno.
say that if I was in the area and there was a bus going past it, I would take a picture of the bus with that in the background just as a record of it. I do like, sometimes I do like the older architecture. The brutalistic side of it is quite, sometimes can be quite
Hmm,
interesting in that respect, in that
yes.
it's
Uh,
like Stafford Station, for example, is clearly a 1960s rebuild from presumably what was a beautiful station at the time, and it's there's nothing special about it, but it's recognizable. It's just all
hmm.
prefabricated concrete bits to make it look like a station.
Well, Sue Sparkle said that is disgusting and ugly. That trouble is, are you talking about me or the building?
I thought you were on about Keir Starmer, to be honest with you, but
I mean, they've actually ball hammered the concrete on the outside, and there was this bloke on BBC climbed up the outside of that bleeding ugly looking monstrosity, and he said, "Oh look, it's all ball hammering on the side. What marvellous, isn't it?" And he came on to the aesthetics of it and how marvellous it is, and how the sun hits the side of it. No, it, quite honestly, it's grade 2 listed, so they can't pull the bleeding thing down if they wanted to. It's, I
well, he
mean,
probably went up on the outside because it's probably safer than going on the inside of it.
well, the bleeding
Probably,
lift looks if the lift's caught at the bleeding top, doesn't it? I mean, look at it. I mean, what is that? Is that viewing panel? So, but apparently some posers bought it. It used to be a council place, but it's private now, and there's people that's bought it. I mean, I just wonder if they'd have a history of mental illness. I mean, can you imagine going home to that? Bloody hell!
yeah.
I mean,
You wouldn't be
you know.
wouldn't be proud to say that was home, would you?
No, no. The DJB tours said it's all communist crap they teach in universities, spot on, these days, filtering into the design field. 100%. The RIBA, I think, was taken over in the 1950s, probably before, by the communists. I mean,
And yet, you know, some buildings in that area are quite iconic. So, for example, if you've ever been to Birmingham New Street Station, the old signal
mm,
box there was
yeah.
redesigned to. It was put in there as part of the electrification of the West Coast Main Line back in 1962, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and it was designed to look like the uh, I don't know what they called the isolation things on the overhead wires.
Mm.
So if you look at the outside of Birmingham New Street signal box, that's what it's supposed to represent. I don't know what they call, but the things that hold the overhead wires in place. And
Well,
apparently that's listed now as well. So that's not going to be coming down
really?
anytime soon.
Well, there is good architecture around. For example, if you look at Liverpool Street, however they've actually modernised that, is bloody good. The architect who did that knows what he's doing or she's doing, because it keeps the same style as like Victorian, but it's a modern sort of like a bit like steampunk. It's sort of like a modernised Victorian look. And I have to admit, you look up and you think, yes, they've kept Liverpool Street Station as it was. They've done a good job. Now, if you want another building, first of all, I'll tell you about this bloke, a Goldfinger. Shall I take that off before people keep start to throw up? Now, Udo Goldfinger, I worked with old boys that actually worked in the 60s with these architects. And I worked with a bloke who worked in, I think, Udo Goldfinger's office. Now, first of all, Udo Goldfinger, the bloke who wrote James Bond, Ian Fleming, detested Goldfinger's architecture so much that he made the arch villain Goldfinger. That's true. And Udo Goldfinger got a bit pissed off about that. He wasn't too happy about it. But apparently he had no sense of humour at all. He was a Marxist and he was a Hungarian. And he was a member of a group of people that we're not allowed to criticise. I got nothing against him because of that. But the thing is that the bloke I used to work with said that he hated contract people, loathed them, because he was a Marxist, you see. He didn't want people working for themselves and that. So to him, freelance people were the lowest of the low. They were the shit. But what he didn't realise, it was thanks to contract people that got him out of bleeding trouble. That's the thing. Anyway, on with the story. This bloke treated staff like shit, basically. And some people were coming up the stairs one morning, and he came out and said, "What time do you bloody well call this? You're supposed to be in work at 9 o'clock, and look at this." And he gave him a right telling off. What the silly bastard didn't realise, they were clients. Yes. And now we got here, that building, I got it, let's put it back again. That building probably smells of stale urine. Yeah, stale piss, yes. But my dog's got a bow. This is the heterogeneous forgetful. My dog's got a bow wow house. Bow house. I actually call it bowel house because what comes out of bowel house is similar to what comes out your bowels. And,
I suspect when you reach the top of that building, you're probably higher than it anyway.
Yeah.
I shouldn't judge.
Well, I was actually quite good at pissing architects off. I was very, very. In fact, I got quite a skill at it. And what got me is that they'd be sort of almost wetting their pants and looking at shit like that. And they used to say to me that the latest one, it's a statement. So I said, well, so is a dog curling one out. That's a statement as well, isn't it? I mean, what is a statement? And the other one was, you don't like it because it's new. People didn't like Tower Bridge when they built it. It was thought of as a monstrosity, but it's loved now. I don't think so somehow. I think people loved it when it was built. It was a beautiful piece of Art Nouveau, beautiful piece of architecture. But, and my granddad, it was strange because it was finished. He must have seen it being finished off because he remembered it being built. And he told me that there was like a farrier's shop next to Tower Bridge, and the riveters, they used to throw the rivets up to the riveters, and they used to catch them in a leather gauntlet and go bang and put the rivets in.
Yeah.
And now, can you imagine that with health and safety today? Now, my granddad was built in 1888, and I think Tower Bridge, I don't know when it was finished, but he must have been bloody young to see that. But he always told me about that, so there we go. And now,
So we seem to be So we do seem to have lost the skill to build. Assume it was humans that built a lot of the
Hmm.
old world stuff like St. Pancras and sorry, it's not all just train related stuff, but even
I
like
know
when
what
you
you
go
mean.
across to mainland Europe, I had a few days along the Rhine, and if you've ever been along the Rhine
Yeah.
from Bonn south towards Frankfurt, and all the castles and cathedrals and churches and stuff that dot the line, and they're in the middle of the river and all this sort of stuff. They're just beautiful, and they're
Mm.
nicely painted, and you look at it and think that's amazing. That looks. It's as though
Yeah.
when they built them, they thought we need this to look a part of the scenery, not just stick some bricks together
That's
and that'll
right.
do.
Well, I'm an Art Nouveau fanatic. I love it because it looks it's natural. It's all this eco stuff is not new. I mean, it was building to sort of make things blend in and look correct. Now, I've just looked it up. Tower Bridge was finished in 1894. And my dear old granddad was born in 1888, so he must have been 6 years old when he saw them riveting it. So that was one of his earliest memories of Tower Bridge being built. So, see, and I shook the hand of my granddad, that hand, you see, the man that was an eyewitness to Tower Bridge being built. So that's a long time ago. Now, Sue Sparkle has said there there is a lot of Art Deco buildings in Blackpool. Yes, I'm not really an enthusiast of Art Deco, but it's better than the shit we got now. And because did the French tower, what do you call it?
Eiffel Tower.
Ta- and that as well. Uh, so, and they got the Blackpool Tower. Did you know there was going to be a tower in London? Seriously, and a
Was it?
bloke was going to build it. Yeah, yeah, and I think he lost the funding for it. But there was going to be this massive bloody great tower in London. So but
Now, my understanding, given the subject we had last week about flat Earth stuff, I believe those
mm,
were actually built for free energy to bring energy down to us. Because otherwise,
mm,
their design is seemingly pointless in that respect. I mean,
well,
is it just there to make a statement, or does it have some sort of purpose?
well, it was for an exhibition, wasn't it? It's a Paris exhibition. It was built for, and it was actually temporary. It wasn't meant to last. And Monsieur Eiffel, who built it, he hated architects. and he said if something went wrong with build, that's been architect up, that sort of thing. And he thought the bridge builders and people built engineering instructions were far more aesthetically pleasing. So that's why he built the Eiffel Tower. And there's actually a flat up there that Monsieur Eiffel had built for himself. And he's welcome to it because between you and I, don't tell everybody else this. I
It's your
suffer
secret
from
safe for me.
well, I suffer from a disease when I go up high. You know what it's called? Cowardice. I can't stand heights. I really
I don't
can't.
see. I don't mind the heights. It's if you're falling from them. That to me is when it's a
Yes.
problem.
Yes, it's
It's and
falling
I guess it's
off.
not so much the falling bit. It's the when you get to the bottom that's the problem.
Well, you see, uh, if you go down to Billingsgate and you see the Billingsgate redevelopment building, which was for City Bank, and it's like a sort of it's a bit like a pyramid sort of shape, and you look up, the top three floors I was responsible for. I did the designs of it, and I was on site there, and we was having a site meeting, and on the top floor before the concrete slab was actually poured, and they had this stuff called Wrigley tin, which was like corrugated metal for the sake of for easy talk, and they would pour concrete on top of it to form the slab. They put all reinforcements in and things. So we went up there, and I'd just done a site inspection, and I noticed that they hadn't put any bolts to put this Wrigley tin in. The crane had just put the Wrigley tin on the floors, you see. So we
Yeah.
stood there having a meeting, and a gust of wind blew up, and the floor went up and down. And let's put it this way: I think it's the nearest I've had to crapping myself ever. Because I just imagined it sort of taking off like an aircraft wing, or bashing my head on the tin at the top. And he went, the quantity surveyor said, I think we better have a meeting elsewhere. Yes.
Imagine how a gracious leader feels every time he looks in the mirror. I bet he shits himself every time.
Oh,
Can I
not
quickly send you
criticising.
2 pictures, by the way, Chris?
Certainly,
Can
you
you?
send them two pictures. I don't know how I'm going to put them on there, but so
Okay.
anybody knows.
Oh,
If you could send them PDF. Now that's
okay.
how we
Not
could do
JPEG.
this. It's his presentation. Now I
If
think
not,
I'm
don't
going to
worry.
do it slides or PDF. I'm sorry, but
That's all
it's
right. That's okay.
I haven't the technical ability to carry that out. You probably can do it, but I don't know how to. And but I could, yeah. If we get somebody else on here and you talk between yourself, I can disappear and trans turn them into PDF files and bring them back. So if someone comes on, you would, and I disappear for a while. I can put them on. How about that?
Let me
That's
see
a
if
bad
this
deal.
works. Let me see if I can. It's just to show some of the pictures of some of the
Hmm.
architecture abroad. Uh, GIF files or JPEGs now. I can't do PDFs. It doesn't matter. It was just a thought.
Yeah. We can if you've got a publisher. Put the picture on publisher software and then print it off as a PDF. That's another way of doing it. That's why I do it. So now,
Don't worry about it. Honestly, it's
that's
okay.
all right.
That's
Well,
just
I'm sorry about that. A
no, no.
Blackpool Tower building is Victorian, one type of architecture I personally like. Same here, Sue. The Victorians knew how to build. They built some shit, but they also built some good stuff as well. You go into a public library that the Victorians built, you thought, wow. Yeah, government buildings, they were shit hot when it came. And when I worked on the Billingsgate redevelopment, which was one of the best contracts I ever had, actually, it was really good. I was working in a site office there, and my drawing board was set up where I could that's the days when we had drawing boards, of course, and quills. No, I'm joking. And and we sort of, you look out the window and there's Tower Bridge to one side and the HMS Belfast over the other side, and then there was the what was that, London Bridge the other side, and it was strange because around about that time, Miles Fleetwood, who's Dr. Miles, he worked in computers in the building opposite to where I was. Isn't that a small world? At
Wow.
that time, yeah. And we would probably pass each other in the street whilst we were going to buy our sandwiches at lunchtime. Who knows? Now, Sue Sparkle has said they had a tower like Blackpool Tower at New Brighton near Birkenhead. Did they? What happened to it? Because, I mean, you got the Boston Stump, which was built bloody hundreds of years ago, I think. And my theory is, but Boston in Lincolnshire is so depressing that they built the stump so people can throw themselves off it. Sorry. Right, we just lost a lot of listeners from Boston now. Bloody shake, now, it says here, the Eiffel Tower looks unfinished and they forgot to take the scaffolding off. Yeah, because they got to keep replacing the steel on it because it keeps rusting away. But the Eiffel Tower is somewhere I could not go up because I spoke to somebody that's been up there and they said the higher it gets, and this is a person that had a head for heights, the more sort of, it gets. And have you ever seen that Australian film called The Adventures of, who was it now? Adventures of something. And it's about these couple of Australians who did the sort of tour of Europe in the 1970s. And it's a classic. And there's a scene where these two Aussies get on the Eiffel Tower lift. And they've had a real skinful the night before, down with the old lager and that. And they said, oh, Bruce, I feel pretty crooked here. Oh, blimey, yeah, I do actually. They're standing there and they go, what? Oh. And then the scene goes to two very effeminate men walking towards the Eiffel Tower, you see. And then the scene goes back to the lift going up. The Adventures of, oh, bloody hell, what was it? Somebody in chat, I know. Anyway, you see the lift going up and they go, "Oh, Bruce, I think I'm going to have a chunder in a minute. Yeah, I think I'm going to as well. Should have had that lager." And you see the lift going higher and higher and higher. And you see these two effeminate blokes walking towards the Eiffel Tower. You think, what's going to happen? And then suddenly they get out the top, they see the height, they go, "Oh, Stroth!" They go, "Bleh!" and spew up all over the side of the tower. And you see this puke flying through the air, and these two effeminate blokes with the sort of permed hair, it goes boom, all over them. And it's so that you have to see the film to laugh at it, because to explain it, it's not as good. But I was off my seat with bleeding laughter with that one. Barry Humphries, that was it. I think it was Barry Humphries, was it? Was it the... I can't remember the... Anyway, that was it, you know, and parts of it are on YouTube, but I haven't found that particular bit, you know. But it was a classic film, it really was. I just found out I have publisher laugh. Well, don't tell everybody, you know, you might get ointment for it. I must have got it with Office and forgot about it. Yeah, I use it quite a lot. It's quite good. Now it says here, I bought a copy of Office off one of those cheap software key sites. Yeah, so did I. Bit of a sod to set up though. But no, I've got I bought Office, or what was it now, 2000 and something or other, and it didn't work on my new computer. So I thought, oh, balls to that. So I bought one of these keys and I plugged it. It's all above board. It's all legal, you know. I won't have Bill Gates knocking on my door, arresting me. And the bloke, I had to contact the bloke by email because it went all tits up, but he sorted it out for me. It's good of him. And but I don't like the latest one. I prefer the old one. It's easier to use, you know.
Well, I think a lot of this stuff. I mean, we were talking about this the other day about that every time you get an install on your computer or an update, I'm sure it's basically code for saying we're going to screw your computer over a little bit more. I mean, like for example, like your mobile phone, your basically just smartphones and stuff like that. One day, today, it's working perfectly fine. You get an update overnight, and tomorrow the battery dies after 10 minutes. You think, well, it's a bit of a coincidence that's happened.
Well, I'll tell you what gets me. Steam iron cables, which are wrapped in fabric.
Yes.
And they say they're wrapped in fabric to protect the iron. Bullshit. They break down after a while and they go all shredded and horrible.
Yeah.
And why? And I'm sure it's planned obsolescence. Why can't you put an ordinary cable on it and say, "Oh, don't do that, it might overheat"? Bullshit. You know?
Well, if it overheats, the last thing you want it to do is get near a rope. Surely that would encourage it to go. Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I've got some. I can light this.
Well, it's only 1,200 watts. And I mean, I've got bloody, what do you call it? An air fryer, which is higher than wattage than that, and it's got thinner cable. So, I mean, I don't know. But anyway, regarding the Birkenhead, now Sue said they had a tower like Blackpool Tower at New Brighton near Birkenhead, and I think it's on the same one, same thing. Neglect during World War One became unsafe and too costly to repair. It's very, very sad, that, isn't it? And you're quite right. LibreOffice is free. Yes, you can download that free of charge. Don't go much on it, really. But I don't go much on Microsoft's crap, Bailey. But you know, there isn't much choice. But Libre, you know, it's all right. Now, GJB2 said, I'm used to Office after changing from WordPerfect in the 90s. I used to have WordPerfect, and it was bloody good. And did you know that Microsoft sued the people who did WordPerfect for a lot of money because they said it was a copy of Word? Yeah, but it's bleeding sight better than Word. Much more logical, you know.
So give me Excel any day of the week, but Word, not a clue.
Yeah. If it's by soft, what gets me is they seem to complicate things. This new version of Publisher I got, it takes me bloody ages to work my way around it. The old one was so much simpler, much easier to work on, but my new computer just wouldn't handle it. Bloody thing, you know. But we were talking about housing estates. Now, there's another theory that says that squareness makes you depressed. They did an experiment. Where they cut down trees, the vandalism and crime rate went through the roof. Where you've got more trees, the crime rate and vandalism drops.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because
And
people feel at home with nature, don't they? And
well,
it's I
it's
suppose
natural. We're animals, aren't we? We come from nature. Yeah, sorry, carry
yeah.
on, Paul.
So it's like when you see a lot of the grey buildings, and
Mm.
like I said, we were talking about the concrete buildings earlier, and I can remember, I think I said it before we came on air, that there's a massive, uh, effectively a town that sits above. I think it's a Bow in East London. You can see as you go into the whichever tunnel it is, and it's an absolutely vast complex. It's a bit like that one you showed from Hammersmith, but
Mm.
probably about 4 or 5 times the size. It's basically a massive village built in tower blocks, basically. And it's you just think, I wouldn't want to walk around. I wouldn't like to be their postman. Let's put it that way. I
Yeah.
suspect they run rather than walk, or just chuck it in a pile and say, "Come and collect it yourselves."
Bloody hell. Well, it's like Thamesmead. I believe. I mean, you were saying that they've actually done it up now, but that was on the side of the River Thames.
Yeah,
You know.
they rebuilt Thamesmead. It was because it was renowned for it was apparently very difficult to police and very much designed with criminals in mind. So any criminal that would live there could do something and run off, and the police could never catch them because there was that many different
Mm.
alleyways and stuff out of there. I've only been to Thamesmead once, and that was in the when was that? About 2012, 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and I got off at Abbey Road station. But by which time most of the concrete monstrosities are gone, and they were building a new and improved Thamesmead, which was more in line with more modern housing
Mm.
rather than concrete horrible stuff.
Well, if you go to Harlow, which was a satellite town from London in Essex, it looks as if they had thousands and thousands and thousands of tons of cement delivered, and they didn't know what to do with it, so they built Harlow. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's concrete.
Well, it's like same with Runcorn. If you've ever been to Runcorn, Runcorn
Yeah.
is it was designed as a new town, and there's lots of greenery there, but there's a lot of I would say there's a lot of antisocial behaviour there, which maybe it's
Mm.
because it's on the outskirts of Liverpool. No offense to Liverpoolians, I love Liverpool as a city; it's brilliant. But Runcorn seems to be very much sort of, do I really want to get off it? And then you got the main
Mm.
part of it is a shopping centre at I can't remember what it's called, but even that's a concrete monstrosity. But once you get away from that,
Yeah.
it's lots of greenery around, and all the houses are sort of set back, a bit like Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes is another one. That's all, and the main centre is all glass square
Oh.
buildings, but for some reason it has quite a nice feel to it. And when you
Uh.
travel through Milton Keynes, all the housing estates are set back behind sort of vegetation, so the missiles can't get through to you.
Hmm.
But everywhere's sort of fast roads. It's actually I quite like Milton Keynes. I don't know why. I do.
Uh. I spent what felt like 50 years one no, when was it? One Monday afternoon, I think it was, because I actually had to drive. I was coming back from where was I coming back from? Some uh, Herefordshire, and I went through Milton Keynes, and I got lost. And this was before sat navs, and I thought, hang on a minute, I think I've seen that roundabout before. Hang on, I think I've seen that building before, and I just went round and round and round and round in bleeding circles, and ended up going north. But I went miles out my way because of sodding Milton cock up Keynes, you know.
Well, you know that Milton Keynes, the and again, sorry, briefly train thing, they actually named the locomotive City of Milton Keynes about 30 years before it even became a city.
Well, they're thinking ahead, isn't it? Is it a city now?
I
City of
think it
Milton
is. I think it
Keynes?
is now. I think it
Hmm.
became a city in 2000.
Well, it's
This
famous
loco
for
was named in 1980, whatever it was.
Bletchley Park, where they did all these ciphers and things like that during World War Two, isn't it? Because that's on the outskirts of Milton Keynes.
Yeah, you got
But
Bletchley, Milton Keynes.
hmm,
Yeah,
It's a funny part of the world, really. It's neither one thing or the other. But now here is a plug for some business, uh, and here we go. It's Hereditary Skepfoot says, if you live in Leeds, yes. So remember this: live in Leeds. I'm a genius on PC repair, even if I say so myself, and cheap. So if you live in Leeds, so Hereditary Skepfoot is a genius on PC repair, even if he says so, and is cheap. So if your computer goes tits up and you live around that area, that's the place to go.
So
Have you got any
if
contact info, mate? Because I like to help everybody to sort of promote their businesses and things. So if you want me to promote it, just say. I don't mind. Sorry, he's going to
if we
say Paul.
I was just gonna say, if we take our computer too, do we have to monitor the situation?
Oh dear.
Sorry,
Oh.
sorry.
And DJ B2 says, I build and fix my own computers. Laugh out loud. I used to build my own computers, but I'll tell you something, I'll never buy a new computer again because directly bought it. It's a bit like a new car. It's just lost a couple of £100 immediately.
Yes.
So that's a problem. But what I was going to say, if you go out to an architect and say Le Corbusier, they'll cream their underpants or wet themselves with excitement. Oh, Le Corbusier, what a marvellous man. No, he's an arsehole. I wonder how many architects are watching this show tonight. Blaster! Whatever. But the thing is, I'm a bit like the Punch and Judy man that hated kids, but the thing is, Le Corbusier, he was the bloke, he was the father of tower blocks. And people say, oh yes, but his tower blocks, you had a reception and it was all monitored, and what are those geezers that sit around the entrance lobby? There's a French name for it.
The building manager, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing, So, hello, so I come for keys for the house and all that. Well, and he had this idea of building this bleeding great thing in the south of France where you wouldn't have to leave it. You had working areas and you had but the best one was a city he did in South America where he thought, well, people won't need to walk anywhere. So he didn't put any pavements down, and they reckon the amount of road deaths in this place is the highest in the world because people have to walk along the roads. I mean, I just cannot stand Le Corbusier. But you mentioned that in an architect's office. I think, well, you get crucified. I think they hang you out the window upside down. I mean, Le Corbusier, what a marvellous man. No, he's a prick. Sorry, a person. I actually slipped the tongue there. I didn't say. Yeah, but Paul Moulin says Charles Renier Mackintosh, genius. Yes, that was up in Edinburgh, isn't it? Is that Mackintosh? I think it was Edinburgh. I think he was Scottish. Or am I thinking of raincoats?
He's got very much got a Scottish name. Let's put it that way.
Yes. But no, my favourite is Gadi, Monsieur Gadi. I didn't have time to put any pictures of his up, but of Barcelona, and he really was an architect. He really knew his stuff. You either love it or hate it. I love it. That's how buildings should be built by Monsieur Gadi. And he was such an eccentric that when he died, I think he got his ending was the same as Dr. Zhivago. He got his tie caught in automatic doors of a tram or something, and it throttled him.
Right.
And he was dressed like a tramp because he was so obsessed with his architecture, and he used to have bun fights with the local planners. I know the feeling, poor sod. But a little bit about Monsieur Gaudi. He was, let's have a look here. He was born in 1852 and croaked it in 1926 and was a Catalan architect and designer from Spain. And he knew his stuff. And looked a bit of a miserable sod there, but a bit of an eccentric apparently. And when you look at some of his stuff, I mean, there was the roof at Casa Balito. Yes, that's if I pronounce it right because I can't speak Spanish. And when you look at that cathedral now, he didn't finish it in his lifetime. It's been finished by others, but it's well, almost he was just a work of art. He was just pure genius, you know. And now, Paul
It
Malone
makes
said,
one.
Glasgow School of Art. Hmm.
I suppose when you look back to like the older buildings, like Cologne, for example, the cathedral at
Mm.
Cologne. If you've ever been to the
Yes.
Cologne,
Mm.
that's an absolutely stunning piece of
Oh yeah.
architecture. The amount of detail that goes into it. And I find it hard to believe when they tell us that were handmade. I find that
Mm.
hard to believe, and it's interesting that buildings such as that have stood the test of time for hundreds or
Yeah.
thousands of years, and yet, what with all our technology we've got now, we build stuff and it lasts 20 years, and then I mean, there's buildings in where I am now that have been pulled down after 20 years because they they're just falling apart, and you think, well, how is it? How have we got this to this point where we basically build stuff that's, I mean,
Oh,
I'd say the
I,
S word,
I,
shit.
shit. Well, right. I mean, I worked on a project where there was knocking down a building that was 16 years old, and that was in the city of London. And they're not built to really last. I mean, if you go to Stevenage, the bus garage at Stevenage, there's a building called Swingate House there, and yours truly, I've got a funny story about that. You see, and there was gals when I because between you and I worked. I hasten to add, I wasn't staff. I was freelance for Stevenage Borough Council Architects, and so I say I was not a civil servant. I was a contract bloke, and they certainly made you feel it that you were a contract. Oh, bleeding shabby, you know. But anyway, the reason I worked there because they specialised in housing, and they wanted somebody who was industrial and commercial, which was my particular speciality, and not housing. And I worked on Swingate House, and it was built in 1961, and they found asbestos there in the tiles, which had to be removed professionally. And also, it was like a greenhouse, so it was it was glass, but 60s glass. So in the summer, it was boiling, but in the winter it was freezing. But there was a couple of us working on it, and guess what? Because I have a fear of heights, I had the top floors to design. Every bloody time. It's either top floors, and they called me Crap House Chris, because I got to design crap houses. I've been in more ladies' toilets. This sounds a bit pervy than anything, because I designed ladies' toilets. Toilets. And I go for another contract. Are you all right designing toilets? Yes, I've done crap houses before. Oh, I do really good crap houses, you know. Yeah. So, and the thing is that fancy getting a bloke to design a woman's toilet. Sure, you get a woman architect to do that. You know, it's just.
I suppose who are we to judge these days? I mean, let's be honest.
Ah.
I
Oh
suspect
yeah,
I
that was
suspect
before.
modern day women's toilets have got urinals in them.
But no, what happened? You see, the roof had this. It's like a patchwork quilt because flat roofs do not work. This country, it rains a lot. You need pitched roofs, which disperse the water, not bleeding flat roofs. So I went up there and I saw, and Stevenage, when you go on top of Swingate House, you notice the surrounding countryside is higher than you are. It's actually in a bowl, Stevenage. And it really is. You know, you're looking up toward the surrounding sort of, it's not hillside, it's just countryside.
Yeah.
And it's like a saucer. And that's why when you get smogs and things like that, it just stays in it's a smoggy hole. But what's happening, you see, is it originally had, like, I think it must have been the sort of roofing felt they shove on sheds put on top there. So, and over the years, they replaced it with bits of fiberglass. And it was an absolute patchwork. So they needed to take the whole roofing felt off and redo it. You see, and it needed to be upgraded for insulation. So what needed to be done is you had to put insulation blocks on it and things like. Anyway, on with the story. So I, uh, I was sort of sitting in the office one day, and the Swingate house was a few doors along from the architect's office. So it's pretty good actually. You just come out of the office, go and do a survey, a couple of doors, and come back again. So you didn't have to go very far. And it was a time when we had these really strong gales in the 1990s, you see. And I'm sitting there, and suddenly there's a phone call from the reception. So, hello? It said, hello. Are you dealing with Swingate House? I said, yes. Are you dealing with the roof of Swingate House? I said, yes. Could you come down to the reception, please, and see a policeman? Pardon? I said, well, I ain't done anything wrong. No, he wants to speak to the person responsible, you see. So I said, oh, all right then. So I thought, what's a policeman doing going up the roof of the Swingate House? Well, when I went out to the front reception, there's bits of sheets of this roofing felt flying through the air. And there's this PC there, sort of, hello, are you responsible for the roof of Swingate House? I said, well, not personally, no. Well, are you responsible for that? I said, well, no. I said, because it's been there since 1961. It's just decided to depart itself from the bleeding roof. I didn't say exactly those words. He went, oh. I said, well, what can I do about it? I said, I'm just a pencil and paper, and I design things. I said, I don't actually, I don't go up there with a shovel and shovel it all off. He said, well, there's an insurance problem here, and if that comes down and kills somebody, blah, 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 blah. So what do? They shut off the whole bleeding road and the bus garage, so that pissed people off, so they go around the corner to get their buses. But it's part of this, as if, I want to find out who's responsible. Do you think some post, I've been up there with a penknife, cutting off bits of bleeding roofing felt and chucking it over or something? I mean...
Well, you talk about... Sorry, if you talk about bus garages and bus stations in particular, anybody on here from Stoke will know Hanley bus station was recently rebuilt, and the old one was a drafty old place. It was a bit of a concrete monstrosity, but above all, it worked. So, for example, if a bus turned up and the driver was then due to have his break, he'd park his bus away from the bus stands, over on the sort of by the car park, and there was enough spaces for them to actually have their breaks either on the bus or park the bus up and go off and have a bite to eat or whatever. And then this new bus station was built, which in a different part of Hanley, and it's basically built it's a curve, almost a complete circle. So the buses have to go in, nose in, and then reverse back out. But they didn't take into account the fact that at some point the bus drivers may need to take a bus from there and have the break. So before, when you had the bus station, the old one, which worked perfectly fine, the new one, they then have to take the buses from the bus station to a car park in order to have their break. You think, well, how did somebody come in with that design and think, well, they might need somewhere to park the buses? No, we won't bother with that bit. We'll scrap that bit. They can just go to local car park. Obviously the people with the computers now designing stuff clearly don't have the sense that they did years ago without those computers. They actually knew what they wanted to build, and it was built with the idea of growth in mind. And that seems to be a bit of a theme with a lot of what you see around, like the London Overground, for example. I noticed that when they built the line, they rebuilt the line from New Cross through to Shoreditch, and you've got Shadwell Station, which oddly is an underground station, even though it's London Overground. And this station can only just about fit in 5 coaches. Well, the trains are 5 coaches, so any chance of expansion? So should they think to themselves, we need 6 coaches now? They'd have to rebuild the entire station. There's no forward thinking about what's going to happen in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, 40 years' time. Should we make it so we can fit a 10-coach train, even though it may not be needed? The thought of design doesn't really go very far.
I agree with you. I mean, when you look at sort of Gothic architecture, the Victorian sort of neo-Gothic that they did. That's, when you look at St Pancras and places like that, it was really, it was a work of art.
Yeah.
Their drawings were absolutely fantastic, and when you look at those drawings, that they were artist drawings, and they were so skillful without computers. All they had was slide rules, and everything was very basic. And the drawing instruments in those days were very basic as well, very crude in many respects. But I think that what we have now, this may sound a bit weird, you've got straight lines, which you look at nature. Nature is not straight. Everything's curved in it. You look around, trees are got beautiful curvature. We've had thousands of years. I don't necessarily believe in evolution, but shall we say, we come along thousands of years of living in woods. And why is it when you've got chocolate boxes, you have pretty pictures of Devon cottages? You have pretty pictures of landscapes, seascapes. Why haven't you got pretty pictures of this?
I suspect
What?
that might appear on something specialist from Ann Summers.
Well, yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? Yes. Well, we've got one of those. I understand. In a brown envelope, Could I have a picture? Could I have a picture of that? I mean, what the bloody hell is it? I mean, that is an abortion. It's horrible. I mean, there is some very good architecture. I mean, if you go to Liverpool Street Station, they refurbished it, and the architect there knew what he's doing. It was bloody brilliant.
But only the one half of it, though, because if you come in on the suburban services into Liverpool Street, you get the shitty side of it,
yes,
the dark side, as it were. You got the lovely.
I agree with you.
You got the posh bit where you come into, because your trains come into platforms 1 and 2.
You come from Hertfordshire,
Yeah.
Posh,
But if you come from somewhere like Southend, you get the shit side.
You get the shit side.
Yeah.
You get the announcement. Hot people for Hertfordshire, platform 1 and 2, please. And for the shitty South End, please go up right at the other end. And please do not put your cigarette ends on the floor on the floor as you're going.
When you find the sign that says lavatories, you need to go a bit further. You find your train around the corner there.
It's funny because I used to go to Liverpool Street because that's another thing. I've got a phobia about tube trains. I suffer from claustrophobia down there. So I could only go round on the Circle line. So anywhere I worked, I had to go by main line and then walk from a Circle line, because the reason why is because when I first started work, I was trapped down a tube train for, I think it was about an hour and a half to 2 hours in pitch dark in full rush hour. And once you've had that does something to you. It absolutely scared the living daylights out of me. So I'm not happy on tube trains. I don't like it. I feel a bit claustrophobic. I can travel on them now, but I'm a bit I'm happy when it comes into the station. You know what I mean? I couldn't go on full rush hour. But anyway, on with the story. I was at Liverpool Street Station, and the trains that go to Cuffley was, if my memory serves me correct, was platforms 1 and 2, and you had to go through like a kind of a sort of a tunnel to get to platform 1, because currently Queen Boadicea, I think, isn't she buried under Liverpool Street Station? Apparently,
I don't know.
literally, I think it's Liverpool Street. Anyway, or is it King's Cross? One of the two. Anyway, I was a minute that train was going to leave, and I thought, I'm going to catch that bloody train, because I wanted to get home urgently that night. And there's 2 military police walking along, because they got a military police, a lot of them round Liverpool Street Station. I don't know quite why. Maybe you're looking for deserters or something. I don't know. But anyway, they were strutting along, and they their mummy must have been proud of them. They must have been, ironing their uniforms, looking in the mirror, going, "Look at me, I'm a military policeman." And you could see their stomach. They're walking, and they're taking up the whole of this bloody what do you call it, tunnel that you run to, and I needed to get to this train. So what I did, as I was running along, I put my briefcase in front of me. It's a bit like it, the Knights of old, they used to have like a javelin, and I just went, because I didn't have time to say, "Excuse me, do you mind moving that way, please?" Because that was seconds lost, and I just went boom between both of them. I could hear them go boom, 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 one of them fell. sorry. I'm sure, ah! I wouldn't have thought it was ordinary policemen, but they're military policemen, so I think they don't bother with civilians, you know. But I'm not that ignorant, but I thought, cheeky bastards, you know. Doing it, strutting along. People say, excuse me, do I come move out the boat? And it's all, no, look at us.
We see, we're talking about the underground. There's some very interesting architecture amongst stations there as well. It's like Arnest Grove is one of them. That's quite on the
Arsehole Grove, sorry.
yeah. That's quite a nice, pretty station. And you've got an interesting one at Newbury Park on the Central Line, far east.
That's quite a nice one.
With the concrete. I know it's concrete, but it's actually quite it's a cover over the bus station and car park. There's some very, very well thought out designs sometimes.
1930s,
our tube stations are quite pretty and quite nicely thought out.
That was optimistic architecture, and that was done in the 1930s, I believe, Southgate. And another weird thing is that I think Cockfosters is the furthest it goes out in the east, and the other side it goes right out to Hainault, doesn't it? On the other train.
Yeah, it ends at Epping, out towards Epping, Epping Longo.
Epping. It sounds like something you do when you're trying to attract a waiter's attention. You're Epping. Excuse me. You know.
And when they give you the wrong thing, then they've gone from Epping to effing this.
Effing
this up.
Well, Hatchy, you always get one smart ass, don't you? Boadicea, actually, is under platform 8, 9, or 10. Bleeding hell, she was big, wasn't she? Of King's Cross Station. So there we go.
Oh, interesting.
She buried with a chariot and that, you know. Now, going round on the Circle Line, trying to find the way out. This is Heritage Get Folks. Yes, tramps used to get on the Circle Line and keep going round and round and live on there. So it was a smelly line because you get on there and if you pongy tramps off.
Is that the reason why the Circle Line is yellow then? Because it is.
But do you find if you travel into London, you don't attract one nutter. They come along in threes, I've found. You don't only have one, you have about 3 nutters. You know.
See, I use Chiltern Railways, and they seem to be a bit more civilised. I don't know, maybe it's
nutter free.
Yeah. The fares are too expensive for them.
That's right. I had a bloke get on once, and he had some flowers. This bloke really stunk, and bloody hell! And it was on now. It was a train that goes out to right out Harrow that way. I can't think of the name of the line. Bakerloo, is it? I don't know.
Oh,
but anyway,
on the Bakerloo line, because that's towards Wembley and Harrow.
That's it. Yeah. And I had to go out there, and I was actually doing a refurbishment of a telephone exchange that was being changed from an old sort of mechanical one to an electronic one, you see, and they wanted sort of staff rooms and that put in and things like that, you see. So I went out there to do a survey, and it was I think it was out near Pinner somewhere. So I'm sitting on the train. It was about 2:00 in the afternoon, so it wasn't rush hour, and there was a tramp got on who stunk to high heaven, and then there was a woman as nutty as a fruit. I shouldn't laugh. Standing at the doors that were closed, and with the reflections, lifting her skirt up, examining herself. You know, she's sort of doing all this. She's on the magic mushrooms or something. So I'm sitting there with a tramp next to me one side, and a loony woman with a skirt, holding a skirt up, flashing herself at the, I suppose, the doors, or I don't know what she was doing. She just slipped. I'm thinking, why do I always have to surround myself with loonies? Probably like attracts like.
I didn't like to say that, but
yeah. But that's funny, that, isn't it? You know. But no, I actually think now going sort of deep and a bit more serious, from a psychological point of view, that I think that people are generally suffering from shock. Now, this sounds weird, what I'm going to say, but shock does very strange things to you. Now, I've suffered from shock and thought I was having a nervous breakdown, but I wasn't. It was shock. And it does very strange things to your brain. And the thing it does is it reverts you back to adolescence. You think like an adolescent. Shock does that. And you look at someone that's been, say, in a fire or something like that, and they revert to their childhood temporarily, and they come back. And they reckon that people that are tortured by having sleep deprivation, eventually they go up to their torturer and with a pot of wee and show it to them as if like a child, look at my wee. They revert to childhood.
No.
Now, I think what social engineers are doing, they're keeping people in shock or in a kind of frightened state to revert them back to a form of childhood. Because a lot of what you see is totally impractical. And a child has marvellous ideas of how they're going to run the 1 4-minute mile and how they're going to swim the channel. And when it comes to the practicalities of it, they can't handle it because they're thinking as a child. I mean, did you have grand ideas when you was a kid? I mean, I think most of us did. And when Batman, the Batman series came out over here from America, the kids were jumping off of roofs. A couple of kids got killed because they thought they were Batman. Oh, Batman does it. I'll do it. And that had to put a bleeding warning on there. Do not carry out these stunts and that. So this is something, and I'm wondering whether that mentality has got into architecture.
Well, I also think that, going back to you were saying about Stevenage, because just up the road from Stevenage, you've got Welwyn Garden City, which is the main, obviously not the main bit, but as you come into Welwyn Garden City, it's
Welwyn Garden
beautiful.
City, yes.
And I was just thinking about that with regards to even simple things like street lamps. If you go back to sort of the Victorian era and sort of the older type lamps with everything was built to blend in, but it actually felt like a part of the town. Whereas,
that's right.
I mean,
Solid.
like the modern LED things, they're just horrible. They're just, it basically looks like a piece of shit that's been attached to us. And even the lampposts, the poles themselves are all silver, aren't they? They're just basically plain metal with a horrible grey thing attached to it. No thought about how it looks in the street, and even if it's going to get vandalised or something like that. But it's the whole street scene now. And I do
Street
a lot
furniture,
of bus photography, and the older style, like the old concrete lampposts, and they had a bit of, they brought something to a picture, some sort of character to a picture. But now it's as though they've tried to take every nice aspect of our towns away from us. I mean, if you're going to spend money on putting in brand new streetlights, would you not try to make them look perhaps oldie worldy and have a bit of thought about what they look like? And
I agree with you. I mean, Welwyn Garden City, you just mentioned, that was married. That was actually designed by the Louis de Soissons Partnership. They were architects who they also did. They designed all the graves. It sounds a bit weird. Over in, not sure if it was France, where for the there's a name of company. All the war graves over in on the continent. I think it's in France. They actually designed.
Normandy, is it?
No, not so much. I think normally, but they did it more in northern France. I think for the First World War and things like that. And they actually, War Graves Commission, that's it. And they actually did the project there, and they did a beautiful. I've actually got one of their drawings of the war graves, and it sounds a bit morbid, but it's a very beautiful design that they did. And I think that it's sad to put all architects in the same mould. There are good ones around, but the trouble is, it's all to do with money.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Now, Paul Mohammed said, "Hello everyone, bit late, but not censored yet. No, lines from lines please, and note from parents please. Yes, just terrible, isn't it? You can't get this late, Yes, and go to the headmaster where he'd like you to give him the cane.
Yeah.
Now, we got here, DJ Beaton says, the change in the street furniture is preparation for the 15-minute prison slave cities towns. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yes.
agree.
But now this is interesting. Just been told, DJ B2 said, just been told about some thing about air fryers spying on people. Was on this morning with Richard Madeley today. Oh dear,
I wouldn't
Richard
be
Madeley.
surprised.
Well, don't think
They
my
they
one
probably
does.
fit with a camera of some sort, but
Hmm.
I noticed that our local Sainsbury's has now got. I went up there today to go and get some clotted cream for a couple of scones I've got lying about here, and I noticed that I know there's already facial recognition to go in that place. And now they're
Yes.
putting they've installed the gates that you have to walk through now to
I got that in
to
our
try and
Tesco's,
encourage you
yeah.
to look up. So they, I'll
Big
use those
monitor as you
props.
walk in.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing is that I've been thinking of some ideas because some students, I've said this before on the show, found a way of getting round the facial recognition. They had this makeup which was all sort of like, what do you call it, Dada art. It looks a bit like, no, not Dada art, Picasso, with the lines and squares. And it confuses facial recognition. The trouble is, who's going to go out with bleeding lines and things like that all over their face? So I've had an idea. There was a thing in the First World War called Dazzle, which they painted battleships with funny shapes, and it confused the eye. So
Yeah.
if you could have, say, a baseball hat with lots of cloth down the front of it, like a kind of like the Australians do, where they have strings, and then you had sort of lines on it. Wouldn't that, if you just put that, add it underneath your cat, and then when you went in, before you went to the supermarket, you just flicked it down in front of your face, wouldn't that confuse the facial recognition?
It
Just
has a
enough
lot
thought.
of. I'm just thinking about what you're saying with the stripes. Does anybody in the chat have years ago we used to have those rugs of like a lion or a. If someone's got a tiger, maybe they could sell the head to one of us and we could just put that on.
That's a bloody good idea, isn't it? Or a Tony Blair mask. Wherever it is. There's another
God,
Tony Blair walking in. Yeah.
there'd be
Hi.
no staff left in there. They think, oh shit, look at the state of that coming in. We're off. See you later.
So Blair, it sounds like it sounds like a rude word, like a bogey or sort of. Yeah, have you got a snotty? Have you got a Blair type nose?
Well, wasn't it that he used to start that? I don't know if you remember Timmy Do you remember Timmy Mallet?
Yes.
And Mallet's
Yes.
Mallet.
Yes.
And I'm sure
yes.
he used to start his show off with a Blair or two. I wonder if that was sort of a hint to who was going to get in power in a few years' time.
Could be, yes. Actually, Tony Blair. I mean, let's face it. We got Trump in America, which is the name of a fart. Because he said, "Oh, I've just had a Trump." That means I've just had a fart. And then you got Blair. That sounds like it sounds like some sort of diarrhea or something. I've just had a Blair. Sort of, I mean, why have we got these weird names? Now we've got GJB2 said, my local Sainsbury's is chock full of cameras, like hundreds of them. Yeah. So with Tesco's, yeah. As you walk in, I find it a bit objectionable. I really do. And the gates have been there since before Christmas. I can't remember when they installed them in the Tesco's near where I live. It was soon after the lockdown. I know that. They changed it all, and so they had
It's
gates.
every aspect, isn't it?
Well, it's all saying we think you're dishonest. I mean, I like this, what they say, not in Tesco's, but in other places. For your safety, we have safety cameras. Well, what, is something going to fall on your head if your safety camera wasn't there? How did people shop in the Victorian times without safety cameras? How people shop for years without safety cameras? For your safety? No, we think you're a bleeding tea. What they should say is, we think you're a bleeding tea leaf. That's why we're going to be watching you with the cameras. Well, can I be honest?
But then they have people shoplifting, and they're told not to bother calling the police and just let them go out anyway. So what are the cameras for then, other than spying on us and seeing how many bog rolls we're buying every week and stuff?
Well, that's right. That's right. And I tell you, I do not like going through these what do you call it? These self-scanning.
Oh, self-checkout things.
But when I'm in a hurry, I have to. So if I got a baseball hat on, I put it, I just hook it over the camera.
I must be honest, I never use them. If even if I've only got one item, I'll stand in the queue and go to keep somebody employed. I
I
mean, they've
agree with
redu
you.
I mean, they've reduced that. The in our local Sainsbury's now, we went from 20 tills with human beings on or people on
Hmm.
or whatever to there's now 6 left in this entire shop. I don't use it very often. Today's my first visit in about 3 weeks, and I was in there the one day, and this bloke who was on the checkout, he said, well, they'll never get rid of us. And I thought, well, look at where you sat, mate. I said, 2 weeks ago, I said you were sat way down there. Now you're sat right by the door. One more bout of self checkouts, and you're all gone.
Well, they've
And he
got
said,
shops, so they've got it, haven't they?
yeah,
There's no staff.
yeah. We went down to if you go, I think it's Rugby Services. There's a Marks and Spencers there in the
Hmm.
services area there, and there's one person, one individual working in it. And they're only there if you go in to pay something with cash. Other than that, they have no purpose.
Oh,
It's
I don't know what it is. It's strange. So I didn't mean to talk over you.
no, no, no. It's
Yeah.
carry on.
But what is it about my local Marks and Spencers? The staff there look as if they've just had a bereavement. I feel like saying I'm sorry about your bereavement because we're a miserable bleeding sods. But and Iceland as well, they're miserable bastards in there. I mean, if I think it cracked their face if they laughed. Well, but I like what they've got in the Netherlands. Apparently, they've got slow checkouts, and it's for elderly people. And there's elderly people at the checkout, and you can have a conversation with them and take as long as you want. And then they get
Oh,
loads of people, and it's a bloody good idea. They reckon it's so popular, they're opening more of them.
excellent. Because
Slow
we like the
checkout,
human
yes.
touch, as it were. It's
Yeah, lovely. I'm all for that.
I do acts of kindness, and
Yeah.
although not as many as I've in recent times, but and one of the days I went into Marks and Spencer where I am, and the woman behind me had sort of let me go in front as I normally do, as sometimes I do.
Mm.
And I just gave the woman the checkout, so you can take that off the woman's shopping. And she said, "Oh, that's such a lovely thing to do. But you don't get that with a self checkout, do you? It's
No.
put your money in now and fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
horrible things. It's like
They're bloody
they went
awful.
and approached somebody and said, we want somebody who can do a voiceover, but we're hoping that your previous job was in a concentration camp. Oh yeah, I can
Mm.
do that. Put your money in. Put that thing
Yeah.
there. Do this. Do that." And you think, fuck off. Sorry.
Well, I feel like going into the staff canteen and saying, "What are you doing here?" And we say, "Well, I almost work for you because I'm doing all your checkout. But, you're actually doing the work for them."
Yeah, you should be getting a wage, really.
Yeah. Why can't they
You
pay?
should be.
It's a bit like local council expects you to divide all your waste up and put it into bins so they can make money out of it. So my attitude is, well, they don't pay me. Why should I? And all
Well, I
this
don't bother anyway, because
saving the earth. We're going to save the planet. No, not bloody saving the planet. It's bullshit.
I don't believe anything gets recycled anyway. I think it's
Yeah.
all a scam. Because
End up in
I was
India.
thinking, I was thinking about this a few times. I thought about this that we get if you take a city the size of Birmingham, for example,
Hmm.
how many tons do you get in the back of one of them recycling wagons? 20 tons. How many lorries are going to serve
Yeah.
some other size of Birmingham?
Ah.
500,000. Well, that's just one city. That doesn't take into account London, Liverpool, Norwich, all these other places that will also have a similar sort of amount. Well, would there not be piles and piles and piles of recycling in yards somewhere?
Yeah.
But you can travel the length and breadth of the country and you never see any recycling in waiting to be disposed of or sorted anywhere.
Good point. A good
You
point.
never
I'll
see it
tell
anywhere.
you. Yeah. And those windmills there by the side of railway tracks.
Yeah,
Apparently, that they were powered by electric motors, and it was just for PR,
yeah, yeah,
propaganda.
yeah.
Didn't
Just
really
for
do
show.
anything. Bullshit as it goes. Because
Yeah,
every communist government has an environmental excuse. Mao had it. Stalin had it. So that's to bring people back to poverty. Because what it does, it does more to wreck the environment than save it.
of course it does.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm against pollution. I think everybody should be against pollution. But quite honestly, they've got diesel engines now down to such a fine art. They're super clean. Petrol engines, super clean. Um, the technology's there, and to go over to hydrogen would be the next step. Very cheap, but no, 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 no. It has to be this electric shit.
Which
Excuse
is,
my language.
well, to me, it's just completely uneconomical anyway. I mean,
Hmm.
I've said before, the all the years I've been around the old diesel locos and stuff like that, and some of them they chuck out fog all the time and but still alive. And you think, well,
Yeah.
is it really that bad? I don't think it is. I think, like you say, with modern vehicles, I mean, like the modern buses, the engines rev so high that, and they get so hot that there's no emissions off of them, and yet they'll still turn up and say, well, that can't go into Birmingham because it's a clean air zone. You think, well, there's hardly fog coming out the back of that.
Yeah. Well,
I'd probably give out more emissions when I've had baked beans than this bus does, or
mind you,
car or whatever.
have some
Mm.
smelly. I mean, I've sat behind a bus in my car when it's pumping out on a wet day, pumping out loads of bloody diesel fumes and Christ knows what. But we've got Paul. Evening, Paul.
Evening, Paul.
Good evening, Eric. Good evening, Paul. Good evening, listeners. Had a lovely
And
walk listening to you banging on
excellent.
about things. It was some excellent
Yes.
banging on about things. It was great, yeah.
And we've
Have we
got
put
your
the will to
favourite
rights?
building. Yes. And we've got your favourite building tonight. I'll put it on specially for you. Here it is. Isn't this lovely? Mwah, beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, I know.
I
Mr.
said-
Goldfinger really knocked it out of the park with that one, didn't he?
Yes, yes. I mean, where did he get? I think you were sitting down looking at a cornflake packet in the morning, thinking, "Oh, that's an idea for a building, isn't it?"
I was going to say something similar. Do you remember those illustrations that used to be on young children's construction kits and things like this? I'm not
Yes.
talking about Meccano, which is Wizard, but there used to be lots of other things, and it's actually Lego's better than that. It's obviously, he must have seen a very complicated Lego drawing and did a simplified version of it and came up with that. I mean, it's just, I can't wait to blow it up, Eric. Do you think I'll get a
Same
chance?
here. Same here. Because I relayed my story, which I've sort of 1,000 times, about when I was fired, instant dismissal. I've mentioned it before. That was when I went to work one morning and I was really peed off, and there's this effeminate photographer there, and they paid out a small fortune to have a model made of a 1960s
Right.
built tower block that was built in the city, and they wanted to refurbish it. You see, and so and it was a January morning, freezing cold. I'd had a rotten journey in. I was a bit grumpy, I don't know, but have you ever acted out of character? Because I did. I actually shocked myself. Because
No, never.
Yeah, and I was sitting there, and I was really peed off. I was propped up against the radiator. I was sitting and had some lukewarm coffee. That didn't help either. Bloody lukewarm coffee. And I was sitting, really fed up. There's this feminine black guy. Well, if I get the lighting just right here, we can get the and this model. I think it costs a couple of £1,000. Just a block square. They should have just gone down and bought a cornflake packet. That was it. And this is going on. And they said, they ask each person, what any ideas how we can refurbish this to get the aesthetic creativity of the feelings of the 60s over. And what do you think? And they came over to me, Chris. I said, well, I think Blaster Bates with a lorry load of TNT would make a vast improvement. Get out!
Basically, it's crap. Is what
Yeah,
you
it was
say.
crap.
Yeah.
And luckily I had another contract up my sleeve, so I just luckily I just walked out of that. It did me a favour because I went straight out of that into the next one, so I was well pleased, at a higher rate. So, hey, and otherwise I'd have
Bingo.
to give a week's notice. You see, there's a week's notice either way. So that way, I got fired. I can then start earning a bit more dosh, because you get very, very mercenary. That sort of like you just think, oh, so I would not work on a project like that. How much? Oh yeah, I think I'll work on it. Yeah. But
We do wonder with
now-
that building that you was just showed. Did the
Yeah.
architect sort of when it was finished, did he look back and think to himself, "That looks really nice. I'm really proud of that."
well, Erdo Goldfinger, yes. But I've already
just-
said it about the chap who wrote what was it, James Bond, Ian Fleming, hated his building so much that his arch villain, he named him Goldfinger, and Erno Goldfinger got really pissed off about it. But if you want a real one, look at that one. I mean, that looks like an abortion, doesn't it? Really.
Well, where's that? Is that somewhere in Londinium? Is it? Where's that?
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep, that's the
Is it?
Olympics thing. Yeah, and it was actually. I made a note of it.
Isn't that isn't that the equipment they used for the vole strangling competition in the Olympics or something like that? Or is it's obviously a sport, Eric. You've got to. I don't know. Maybe it's the maze. It's the Olympic maze competition. They put the contestants in there. You've got to get out. It's,
what is it? Or what is it for? I mean, it looks like a very elaborate, like Monty Python. We're going to kill people. It looks like a very elaborate guillotine, doesn't it? Where you get the people slide down here. There'll be revolving blades. It's all red, isn't it?
I wonder what the guys that actually were paid to physically build it.
Yes.
I wonder what their banter was like on a day to day. I imagine a highly cynical. In fact, it'd make a good sketch show, wouldn't it? The builders, they have to work on these completely useless pieces of architectural twattery that get put up all over the place, of which that is absolutely a fantastic... Is that thing still stood up?
I believe it is, yeah.
Still there?
The architect was Anish Kapoor. I never heard of him. Kapoor. I mean, I hope he's recovering well in a mental institution.
I think you might have pronounced his name wrong. Surely it's Anus Crapola or something. Isn't it?
It sounds like
That's probably what it's designed on.
Yeah, Anus Crapola, I think, and that's what. It's. Well, the word genius doesn't spring to mind. It's something completely different, isn't it? That's it. It's just the doodlings of an imbecile. I mean, the main thing is that somebody actually put money up for that. So they want this hideous, demoralising garbage. It's just all junk, all of it. I tell you, Blaster Bates, if he were to come back, he'd be very, very busy if I was in charge of whatever department is in charge of this sort of thing.
Eyesore of the North would be one. The sculpture would be first. That Eyesore of the North. But there is a positive news. I reckon you could lynch at least 12 MPs off of there at once. Give it a 12,
No, I think maybe you could do that, but you could actually all give them socket wrenches and tell them that they've got to take it down over the next 8 years, piece by piece. So they have to confront this stuff. Mark Anthony says, it's in Stratford, East London. Well, I'll just make a note there to never go there, ever. Sorry, I'm never coming to Stratford. I'm sure they're quite happy about that too, but I certainly won't be going there.
Is that to do with the Olympic Park, then?
Oh, I'll put it back on again. Yeah, I think it is.
That's in the Olympic Park. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm joking about the lynching the MPs. No, they're such nice people. We wouldn't want to lynch them. No, send them to Bleeding Island. That's the best thing. Yeah, but...
you said Olympic Park there, Paul, and an anagram of park is crap, isn't it?
It is.
And the Olympics are crap. I hate the Olympics. I've hated them practically my entire life. All that running around and jumping and doing stuff, it's so boring. If they just introduced cheating... Yeah, I think they ought to have the drug-enhanced power explosion Olympics. They can take whatever they like, just blow apart as they overstock on stuff. I don't really mean this, but the Olympics is such a completely pompous load of guff. It really is. It's more globalist garbage. We're all one happy family. I'm not. So
I get you don't like it very much. I hate the feeling I get.
No, I make a point of not watching any of it. It just seems to be eternal swimming. People just swimming everywhere. And you just go, well, we built power boats to overcome that. So what are you swimming around for? No, they're amazing athletes. They're amazing athletes. I just don't get it. And the running stuff is like, it's just not fast enough. I've often thought that in the running events, this is not really about architecture, is it? It would be all right if they were allowed to actually push each other over and trip each other up. I think that'd make it more fun. You undo the opponent, the other runner's laces and things, but running. You can only go as fast as you can run. What's the point of it? That's why we created bicycles. So you can go 40, 50 mile an hour. It's great. I don't know.
What about the Incontinence Olympics? That's what Monty Python had, wasn't it? But bladders are really full now. And they're off. Oh, he's got... they're running. but we got some... we got... DJ Beaters does something marvellous about this building. He said, Goldfinger must have been permanently constipated if he be past... that shape of shit. Yes, yes. I
It's
think
a bit
you
of
agree there.
It's a bit of a vulgarian show tonight, isn't it? We're all loosing off the Anglo-Saxon words like billio. It's great, isn't it? I think this is what this sort of architecture, though, does to your verbiage. You're just lost for words, so you just want to swear at it. Seems completely appropriate to me.
Oh, Patrick's here. Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
And,
Patrick.
so, what do
Hi,
you
Patrick.
think of that beautiful building? We was admiring it here, thinking what a marvelous aesthetic creation it is by
It looks like
Goonfigure.
it looks like they're going to launch an ICBM from it.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's a point.
Maybe they use it to launch the tenants. And the tenants
Yes.
walk along those little gangplank things, a bit like approaching Apollo 14, and then they're fired out of the top at huge speed.
Yeah.
But it's what about this one, Patrick?
Same,
Have you
same.
anything?
It looks like an ICBM ready to launch,
It
or
does.
already launched and going off in all sorts of directions. No, I don't like that. That's ugly. That looks like a circus
No,
type thing.
don't you find anything? You find nothing attractive or appealing about it, Patrick? Well, I'm sure.
Absolutely not. It reminds me of the Le Pompidou, which is a modern art
that.
museum in Paris. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they
Ugly.
design crap, don't they? The French are
Yes.
pretty good at putting up crap.
Le
How much?
Corbusier.
Mind you, they just
He
rebuilt
was
Notre
good at
Dame,
crap.
didn't they? How much did they spend on that? They did an amazing job on that. It was really quite. Yeah, they did. They've redone after it got burnt about 5 years ago. I don't know what it was. And somebody sent me a video the other day of the bells in some huge cathedral. I think it's in Muster in Germany. I'm assuming Germany. Stunning. All these bells inside. Amazing. We need bells back
Really?
in the world. I just think we really. I'm getting a big handbell for my door. And then I thought I'd go on a sort of, this is all part of architecture, it's about the furniture of modern living. We need to get rid of electric doorbells, and everybody should have a bell at a slightly different note. And then you'd know who's getting a postal delivery. Oh, ding. Oh, that's B flat. That must be number 27 or something or whatever, you know. And so they're greater bells, handbells. And of course, I think the posties would really quite enjoy it because they could come and make a old racket, couldn't they? And they'd give them a
Ding,
break
ding,
instead of
ding, dong,
sneaking around everywhere. Because I always like to talk to the postie. I'm just like
I
that.
do. And
know, well-
I think the one on Adam's family would be the best with Thing.
Thing.
Well, I was thinking about the scene from Only Fools North when they go to Margate, and Del and Rodney have to go and stop in that dump of a place. And when they ring the bell, it's like the Munsters Weekend place. You doing.
But have you noticed? I know this is a psychological thing. I've noticed I've been swearing like a trooper tonight. I do apologise to everybody. But what is it about architecture that just sort of gets it just sort of gets right up my hoot? There's something about it.
Because we can't do. I think, Eric, it's because once it's up, as the actress said to the bishop, there's not much you can really do about it. And it's sitting around there permanently. Although I caught Paul talking maybe about half an hour ago, talking about the quality of buildings that go up and the fact that they all fall down again. And of course, what I'm going to dovetail that into, as I always do, is that's to do with the banking system. The buildings are designed to fall apart intentionally so that somebody has to borrow some more money in 30 years' time to put up the replacement. So this whole thing with repaying interest on loans, I don't want to hijack it into this thing because I talk about it forever and will do, but this is part of that really hidden corrosion of everything, because everything is about mammon, nothing is about beauty, and it's getting more and more exaggerated as time goes on. So the buildings are built out of garbage. We had this beautiful hotel down here, which was an Art Deco hotel. Of course, it's all been torn down and replaced by is it a Holiday Inn or a Premier Inn type thing, which is just glass and square and already weathering in the salty sea air, thankfully, because they don't have to spend a lot. You have to spend a lot on buildings down here that are on the seafront because they just get weathered, because of the wind and the salt all the time. So there's a big maintenance budget, but it's hideous.
Concrete away. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this original one, it had this massive. I love revolving doors, huge big lobby. Massive old key desk when you went up to get your keys, all creaking and all this old wood. I remember going into it about 2008. They ripped it down about 2012. And all I wanted them to do was I didn't even want them to do it up. I said, can't you just leave it like this? They said, oh, well, it's creaking and everything. I said, yeah, it's fantastic. That's what I want. I'm
Part of
making
the
the same
atmosphere.
creak as people made 80 years ago. We're creaking just the same as they did. But nah, it's
agree with
hideous. Yeah, it's awful.
See, one of the old buildings I used to work in, that was a 1960s concrete thing, but the lift in it, oh, I'll tell you what, it was an old wooden lift, and the smell and the sound of it and the motors going, I think, I could spend by can you move my desk in here? I'll just go up and down on this all day. It's brilliant.
But Paul, we've got to admit that you are a little bit strange when it comes to transport.
Well, that's as like as I was saying.
Maybe there's a new hobby called lift spotting. Oh, this is an Otis 1934 model and all that kind of stuff.
You beat me too by the sound of things.
Have you got one? Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Oh, have you got your almanac? Oh, I've got all the lift models from Germany and America and Britain. Here it is. It's 8,000 pages long. Look, I've been on this one. Yeah, it'd be great. Oh, yeah. Gosh, a new hobby.
Paul mentioned something before the show, before we went live, and that is how satanic cars are. We were talking about it, weren't we, Paul? You mentioned how satanic
vehicles
cars
in
are.
general.
But you walk around the city and look how satanic the buildings are, the modern ones in the city of London. Very satanic, especially that one that looks like Dracula's castle. I mean, but look at the shapes of those buildings. That say, "Oh, isn't it marvelous? Oh, isn't it great?" No, it's horrible. It's hideous. It just, and again, this squareness and blocks and things like that, I think it is affecting people mentally, psychologically. It's getting.
I'm sure it is, Eric. I'm sure of it. It's by design, of course, or by the absence of any design. It's sent out a projection that literally no effort has been made in the construction and design of this building.
Speaking
because
of which,
it hasn't.
I'm getting some complaints about the audio being overdriven.
Right.
Just so you know, I'm sorry to derail the conversation,
that's okay.
but we're going out on soapbox, so overdriven.
It's a bit. Let's have a look.
I made the comment earlier that Eric sounded distorted, and Paul asked me psychologically.
Paul, shall I
Yeah, I
drop
did.
the streaming gain? Shall I drop that one down, the middle one? Because I'm actually in the audio
Basically,
at the moment.
on that button in the middle of your butt, Eric, because we've got to a double entendre this for as long as we possibly can.
Yes.
The slider in the middle, just slide it over to the left a bit. Knock a couple of decibels off, 2 or 3 decibels. Everybody can turn it up at home if it goes a bit quiet. But yeah, if it's overdriven.
How's that? I've just done it.
Yeah, you just have to make
okay?
sure we're not really going into the red much when any of us talk. That's the idea.
I'll slide it a bit more because we're going into the red like buggery. You know. How's that? Is that better?
And probably. You can't tell here at this end, but they can tell at the other end.
Yeah. Is
So,
that all right, Patrick?
I guess we'll find out. It's tolerable.
Yeah. I've also had a slight echo when I've heard myself a few seconds later. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe you're just repeating yourself a lot, Eric.
maybe I am. Yes, I'm at
We're in
that
a
age.
large room.
Yes.
Did you? Speaking of architecture, anyway, do you remember? This is for people of a certain age. I happen to be one of those people. A documentary made years ago about the British architect Edwin Lutyens. Does that name ring a bell with you, Eric?
Edward Lutyens,
ring a-
yes. Yes.
Lutyens is the guy that
don't-
I think he designed India, basically. He designed the Raj or something like that, and all sorts of other things. But
Hang
there was
on,
this documentary.
Brighton Pavilion,
Yeah.
did he do that?
I don't know. Look him up. It's a funny Edwin, great first name. I always liked Edwin. Lutyens, 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 Edwin Lutyens. But there was this documentary done by him, and I got confused by this when I was a kid. And the guy that did the documentary was called Patrick Nutgens, Nuttgens, and I couldn't work out who was the architect and who was the presenter of the documentary. Nutgens and Lutyens. I mean, are you taking that as a joke, isn't it, really? But the documentary's up on YouTube for anybody that's keen on this sort of stuff. It's Edwin Lutyens Master Architect. It's 52 minutes long. And
It's on YouTube.
Yep.
It's on YouTube.
Just so that you know that there
18
did used to be some people around here that could actually design buildings that look like buildings and that are worth looking at. And Lutyens was one of them. He also designed a lot of houses, which are wonderful. I'd love to buy one, but they're probably about 10 million quid now. So they're amazing. Beautiful brick things with all those fluted chimneys and things like that. And I love all that stuff. It's great.
So do I.
Fockham Hall's a bit like that, isn't it? I wonder if Lutyens designed Fockham Hall, because
He probably did.
Well,
he probably did. I
are
remember
there
when I
any-
was over there in the
John
winter
Nash.
with you, Eric, and our backs to the fire, roaring fire, drinking brandy, looking at the library and all that. It was marvellous, wasn't it? That was a good
Excellent.
day. That was
Yeah, it's
Are there any
fantastic.
good
Very good.
architects? Are there any good architects
Yes, there are some good architects.
these
Like I was saying,
living these days?
Yes, there are. But this is the big problem. Is the client that is the problem? And
What did you call him?
they-
a client? Did you call him?
A
Sorry, I thought I
client.
misheard you then.
Because the design period is an overhead, so that is cut to the minimum. So generally, you haven't got 5 minutes to think. It's just slapping anything down, and that is serious. And this is why they get contract geezers in to actually because they have to pay so much if it overruns. There's a penalty clause in the contracts. So that is the big problem. And they're cutting with CAD. They're cutting the design time down now more and more and more and more and more. So people haven't got time to think it through. And this is why we're having such awful not only awful architecture, but such awful designs. That is it really. But an architect is really a manager. That's really what the architect does, because buildings are actually most of the components that are designed are done by technicians. That's the thing, and and you might have.
They don't get the commission, do they? Because they won't spend the money on proper building materials that mean that the building's going to stand up for 300 years. They could. Although they're going to lose all the art of all this kind of stuff. And of course, the old buildings involved so many craftsmen. You know, staircase makers, where we need a special staircase and you need to get it out of this special sort of wood. And the staircases would cost a lot, but they're, in the entrance halls to proper houses, not that we're likely to ever live in one, except when I pop round to Fockham Hall and get reminded of how things could have turned
Fockham
out.
Hall Estate. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But
Are you familiar, Eric, with Leighton House?
no. Leighton
Well,
House.
If you go and look at the images for it, do a Google. Leighton is spelled Leighton. Leighton House. And you might want to flash a few of these images up, because Fockham Hall looks pretty much like that on the interiors as well. I'm sure you will agree when you see some of the inside images.
That looks like Leighton House. Very nice. That's actually where is it now? Where's it located? Oh,
It's in
Kensington,
Notting Hill.
Chelsea. Notting Hill.
Yeah.
And
It
a
is.
fountain in the
It's the
middle
house of Sir Frederick Leighton, and Sir Frederick Leighton was a painter in the late 1800s, and he designed and built most of the house. I've never been, although I had a good friend who was in London about a year ago, and he said, "Oh, I've got a day to kill in London. What should I do?" And I said, "Where are you?" I said, "Oh, you're only 3/4 of a mile from Leighton House." I said, "I've never been." So he went. I said, "What was it like?" He said, "It's amazing. It looks stunning. It's absolutely stunning." So there's a little museum there.
look at that
It might be
now,
a freebie to get in. So it's one of those little gems in London if you're into this sort of thing. And if you're not now, you will be when you get very old and start smoking a pipe and things, which we all do.
Are you in that? Are you in that category then, Paul?
I haven't got a pipe yet. No, actually, I have got a pipe, but I've never put tobacco in it. And then it broke when I always like the idea of a pipe, you see, Paul. And then what you do is you have to have a pipe and a dog. And when the pipe's sort of all gone out, you tap the ash from the pipe out on the head of the dog. So he has a little sort of pyramid of ash on the top of the dog's head.
You've thought this
And then
through
you-
quite a lot by the sound of things.
Yeah, I think about these things a lot. These things are very important. You've got to present a good image to the world. So, but Leighton House is amazing.
It
Stunning.
does, but you see, the big difference between then and now, you're given, for example, they say, right, we've got 2 months to do this project. And in the oil industry, it's even worse than that. They say, right, you've got so many months to do something that would probably take twice as long. And the client expects 20 drawings, 20 design drawings. So it has to be 20 design drawings, and that's it. You can't go over, can't go under. So what you do is it might be, say, 15 design drawings. So on 5 of them, you just have a blank sheet of paper and just put hold across it. So you've actually sent 15 drawings out. It's totally wasteful. And this is the problem. It's become mechanical. It's not design at all. It's just, and this is why the second highest profession in lunatic asylums, the first is dentists and the second is architects.
Not politicians?
Very high pressure. Not politicians, no.
I suppose it must be
narcissists.
really bad, Eric, if if you're a dentist and a part-time architect, your chances
God.
of escaping mental illness are probably zero.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. But the thing is, the architect gets all the credit, but it's the technicians that put the building together and make sure it's put together. That's the thing. I mean, I was a technician, but they didn't, I don't hear about the technicians, It's always the architects. So what's it there? But they don't look at the people that actually make sure all the components go together. That's the thing. And the big problem, again, is this time. And it's the money. You look at old drawings. I mean, when I was working on Billingsgate redevelopment, we had copies of old drawings that were done in the 1880s and 1870s. They were beautiful works of art. Absolutely incredible. And you could tell that the architect had time. Even the north sign was all sort of frilly with a sort of a cherub blowing the north. Seriously. I mean, the person who did it had time to
I love
to
cherubs,
do that.
don't you? I love a
yes,
cherub.
also, but you looked at these drawings and they were really the printing, everything was beautifully done because they had time. They could think this problem through. Haven't got time to think a problem through now.
Yeah,
the attitude is sort it out on site.
The joke
That's the
is
attitude.
the joke about architects was like, what's the difference between God and an architect? It was
I don't know.
well, God called it good and rested on the seventh day.
Well,
I
I'll tell you
learned that
something.
one. I learned that one from a fellow I worked for. He was a contractor and he did timber frame
Yeah.
construction, and he would build bridges out of timber frame and build scale models and all that kind of stuff. So he knew his stuff. But,
Well, I think working in an architect's office can sometimes be the nearest thing to being in a lunatic asylum. Seriously. It's like a lunatic place because it's very high stressed. People don't realise how stressful it is. People think, oh, they sit back doing this beautiful. It isn't. It's really stressful because you've got
is.
to do this in a certain time. And when you're freelance, you've got to do it with a certain amount of hours. And if you can't do it, they'll find someone that can. That's it. It's dog eat dog. Is that ruthless?
I think, Eric, as well, one of the problems must be in many of these architects' practices when they run out of Fockham Hall pencils. I know that there's been fights over things like that. Have you got my Fockham Hall pencil? There's no need to
And they used to
swear.
wear
Bang.
white coats.
Yeah.
White coats. That was seriously. They used to wear white coats years ago in the Victorian times. So sort of drawing aware and master craftsman and all that. But no, none of that now. It's all bullshit.
Well,
That's what
imagine
it is.
these days they don't need to design anything anyway because they all look the same. So I'm sure that someone just says, well,
Yeah.
that building's green. We'll have the same as that, but we'll just put the outside panels as blue if that's okay. 'Cause
Well, look at these. Excuse my language. These poxy housing estates that are going up all over the place. They won't stand. I mean, they're like rabbit hutches, aren't they? They're terrible. And now they've privatised, and that's another thing you see. They've privatised the building control. So I think they're going to have buildings now falling down. Because once upon a time, building regulations. I mean, my attitude is I really believe that building regulations should be super strict because we need it for our own safety. And once upon a time, the building inspector would be an old boy that's probably an ex-builder, knows his stuff, knows the ropes, will come along and would give advice and say to the person, well, look, if you do that, you're going to save money, and you do this and you do that. And they were really good. Now it's privatised. It's a case of they'll come along, do an inspection and leave, and that's it. So people get away with murder. It's horrendous. So I hope I'm 100% wrong, but I've got a funny feeling that in the not too distant future you're going to have buildings collapsing. That happened in Soviet Russia. That's what I think is going to happen. Now what's this? We got here. Doobie-doo said the Olympic Helter Skelter is predictive programming. It relates to Marburg virus or I can't bloody read that out. Fever. This is a what do you call it? I'll let you read that.
Hemorrhagic fever. I don't know.
Yeah,
This
but
is a
being
funny-
we're on YouTube. I've got to be careful what I say. So we just
Yes.
yeah, people read that one out. The blah, 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 blah. Yeah, DJ Beto. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But
What you were saying about that building, you were saying with regards to that red thing you were talking about. I suppose the one positive thing about it is it'll probably be worth quite a bit in scrap metal in a few years' time. So we'll cut
Yeah.
that down and sell it.
but it will. But is there any particular building that you would like to see blast baits blow up in chat, or any sculpture? My particular one that I'd like to see blown up would be the Eyesore of the North. Anybody, any takes for that?
The Angel of the North, yeah. I've been past
Yeah.
that. It looks like it's been made out of scrap metal and then
Yes.
just left.
I'd like to see it blasted into orbit. I think that would make a very nice, Yeah. But is it full of pigeon shit? Do the pigeons shit all over it? Because they should. I would if I was a pigeon. So
I think the piece of architecture I love is the Fourth Railway Bridge. That's an amazing piece
Yes.
of
Yeah.
how they built that. I have no idea, but it's
well, it's
amazing.
Victorians. So, Paul, any buildings that you would like to see first blown up, sent to the sort of building rest home. So, what would you like to see blown up, Paul?
Me, Paul,
Yes.
or Paul.
Um,
Get
Paul.
very confusing around here.
Yes,
Can't
it is,
everybody
isn't it?
change their name to Paul, and then it'd make it a lot easier?
We'll just call
Yeah,
you
it
Paul
would.
E. Paul E.
Paulie.
No, you
Or we
can't
could call. What about farts? Fockham All Railway Transport Specialists. Farts. What about that? So we
you
were
could
saying
do.
farts. Yes. I mean, it's
Well,
not
there's
rude,
the
is
obvious
it?
ones, Eric. There are the obvious ones. I think Centrepoint's crap.
Yes.
Always did, right? It's all praise for bliss that it's now a national treasure. No, and it's rubbish. There's that. There's the Gherkin by that Fart Foster. That just needs to go. But the main one for me would be that Shard thing.
Yes, I agree. What about the Lloyd's building? That was I think that was Norman Foster, wasn't it?
Probably. The
That
one that's
Lloyd's-
got all the sort of conduits on the outside or something. I don't
Yes,
know what they
yes,
are.
right. Yes, it looks like someone's intestines on the outside. It's
Don't
violent.
look like my intestines. But
No,
yeah.
but- Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They're all
Yeah,
pretty
that-
bad. I mean, you're spoilt for choice. When it comes to crap
Sorry.
buildings, there's just so many to choose from.
That's right. Now in America, we don't want to be. I mean, I know I'm bragging, but Britain is a fine place for shit architecture. So America, I mean, what's your least favourite one, Patrick? What would you like the people TNT shoved underneath it?
Well, I would say in Manhattan you have the United Nations building.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
that is bad.
that's rubbish. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Make sure it's full of UN people though, when it does.
Oh, don't
Yeah.
be so nasty. They're lovely people. They just
sorry.
bumble along. They don't mean any harm at all, really. They're not plotting or anything. It's just all by accident. They don't know. They're all a bit too dim. Maybe they become so depressed by going into that building so often, it's just turned them dark. I bet it does, How are you supposed to have inspiring thoughts about the world or a vision of it when you have to go and work in a shitbox? I mean, basically, it must be designed to do that. Excuse my French, but it's true. It's awful. I'm looking at Viceroy's house in India. If you go and look at things that Lutyens designed for India, it's just fab. It's just
What about
immense.
South Bank? Have you ever been to South Bank? If you're
Oh,
not
that's pretty
depressed
grim, isn't
before
it?
going there, oh,
Yeah.
it's so depressing. It actually
Is that the one where they have the theatre, the National Theatre's there or something, is it?
Yes.
That
if you
building's
want to get
absolute
depressed,
pants, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
pants. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is awful. I once saw a documentary where a bloke, it was a BBC's one out of telly, going around all different countries and that, and he went to Germany, and he looked at these flats, and the concrete was painted yellow, blue, and bloody awful, and they were built in the 30s, or just
Yeah.
before 1933, early 30s, and he said, "Oh, what's beautiful." Aesthetically pleasing this is, and this, oh, the green, it makes you feel like a forest. It was a shithole. Then he goes to these beautiful thatched cottages. And he said, this was built some years later for the SS. Ugh. They were gorgeous thatched cottages with, roses round the door, beautiful gardens. I mean, the bloke was bonkers. But that's the way they think. They do not like beauty. They like ugly. Ugly is the thing. And it's something, and I really do believe it's something to do with all this social engineering and propaganda.
Well,
It's affected the minds.
You mentioned America. Another one that I don't like is the Sears Tower in Chicago.
Oh,
Which you go into Chicago and it's just this big eyesore. It's a towering monster-looking thing. It
toothpick.
takes over the entire landscape. Yeah, well, and then all of these people from the University of Chicago end up going to build these tall buildings, like the one in Dubai, the tallest one. That was designed by somebody from the University of Chicago. It's like
Doesn't surprise me.
They're ugly. They're just doing it to be the tallest building, and there's no sense of beauty.
I've got my reservations about the Chrysler Building that was built in the 20s and 30s, and the Empire State Building is, I don't know.
Some of those are that's at the tail end of the into the Art Deco type buildings when they still had a sense of style and beauty, and they were massive steel structures underneath for the base.
That's right.
You watch some of the old video of them putting it together, and it's just fantastic. But the way it's become now with the boxy, the planned obsolescence type stuff like you're talking about, it's throwaway disposable culture, just like they consider people. So it's a soul problem.
I noticed on YouTube, your out-of-town shopping centres are identical to the ones in this country.
Yeah,
Absolutely
you can go to
identical.
any town. You can go to any town in the United States, and you'll find the same architecture, same city planning and layout. It's like fractalization of planning, the way they do it. It's ugly. I agree.
Well, it's ugly.
Well, I was watching. I was talking about Stafford Station earlier on, and they've put some new buildings on what used to be Stafford Locomotive Shed, and I was watching them putting this thing up, and they were putting what looked like bricks on the outside of the building, but in actual fact, what they were was pieces of whatever they were, and this guy was just using a little mallet to knock them into place, and he must have been putting hundreds and hundreds of these things on this wall. Yeah. Absolute load of crap, one bit of heavy wind and it'll take them all off again. Someone will get lacerated by them, something. But it's just absolute cheap crap that they put together these days. It's just horrible.
Well, actually, Paul Mohammed's come up with some good things here. It says, no matter how you whinge, you have no say until numbers get together and agree. I agree with that. And as for buildings to blow up, yes, I'd agree with you that with Paul. Yeah. I think Guy Fawkes, we need him back, definitely. Houses of Parliament. And he said here, look into the scam of war. And this is an interesting one from Paul Mohammed. Look into the scam of war effort when they got people to do what they would normally not do, remove the railings and destroy the buildings. Yes, and that was a scam because they got, it was it Beaverbrook? I think it was Beaverbrook who actually got people to remove railings for the war effort, and they said it's going to go into Spitfires. No, because it was cast iron, and apparently they're all dumped on a railway siding up near Leeds. So I heard a big pit they built, and all these railings that they've dug up were dumped in a pit in Leeds. Have you heard that one? So they're all dumped for no reason at all. And it's the same with people collecting pots and pans to go into aircraft. It's the wrong type of steel. It's just a waste of time. It was just to sort of get people together as a sort of a drive, as a propaganda move. That's all
To
it
me,
was.
it's about destroying the old world buildings and things. I know we've said before about they were saying about all the bells that was it during World War One that they had to get rid of all the bells
Yes.
because they were low on ammunition, but bells help heal us. So if you've got old buildings with bells ringing and chiming and all this, it makes you feel good. And that's what that to me is what that was part of. That was all
I agree.
to stop the self-healing, so then they could bring in Big Pharma to poison
Yeah,
people,
the
basically.
bells to call for the, like the Angelus or the Mass, if you're talking about Christians. It's and like back in the olden days, the Middle Ages, people worked a lot less too, and they prayed more. They took time off. They observed Christian saints' feast days and didn't work on those days. So yeah, and I doubt that they took the bells and made cannons out of them, because it's a lot of work to cut up a bell and then just remelt it into whatever you're casting. It's just like you could just as easily take iron ore and melt it down, melt
Right.
it that way.
That's right.
I
And
think it's
also-
all part
sorry.
of destroying the cultural glue that's not immediately obvious, but that you grow up in an atmosphere like that. If you think, say, about libraries when they were all being built in the 1800s, many of them magnificent buildings, and they send out a signal of a serious place for the acquisition of knowledge. And they're great. And they had reading rooms with wooden desks, and you could go and study in them. So there's all sorts of different parts of a library, for example. So these buildings inspire you to make you think that you are actually, at the time when the buildings look like that, part of something bigger than just you, and that this is a good thing. And it binds you all together. Now you've got this atomization of everything. Everything is a box. As you say, they've removed the bells. I think I mentioned here on Tuesday evening, it's Monday, so I didn't hear it tonight, but Tuesday evening round here is bell ringing practice at the church up the road, and this bell rings out all across these fields. And I'm often walking, particularly at this time of the year, across these fields with the bell ringing, and it's just fantastic. It's great. It's the sound of some civilized process taking place, of people just reaching for something. It's just this thing of, we've got some aims, and there's something more beautiful that can be brought into the world. But every single building, even clothes design, the design of everything is, is to uniformize everything, remove distinction, and it's a reflection of the degeneracy of communism. It really is, and
I agree with you. It's 100%.
These
yeah.
things leak into every single aspect of what we do. So, basically women dress like crap compared to what they used to dress like. Men dress like crap compared to what we used to dress like. The buildings look crap. The cars are crap. Everything's crap. All of it. You don't need to be a critic. You just say if it's modern, if it's made after 1970, it's probably crap. And if you just say that, you're going to be right 90% of the time. It's just all of it's
Yeah,
junk.
it's
It's not
spot
even
on.
worth keeping around. It's just blow it up. It's just completely rubbish. I'd rather live in a tent. At least you could do something interesting with a tent, with some big wooden poles and things, and cover them in flowers and things. So, yeah, it's just all rubbish. Let's just be completely negative about everything. It's great. It's the most positive thing you can do is to be negative about all of it. It's just great.
Well-
What we really need to get is all those architects in a room and just shout at them until they cry. Leave.
It's not always.
Go
It's not
away.
always their fault, though. It's not always their fault, because.
Well, then they'll start
it's the
shouting at the
clients.
people out. Say, it's not our fault. We go, whose fault is it? Because it's
They
these
don't
people.
have the
Get them in
leisure
here. We'll
time.
shout at them together.
They don't
Let's shout at them.
They don't have that leisure time, because you're talking about libraries and things where you have leisure time not to work and to study. Also, these churches were that's where you would go on a pilgrimage. You look at all the old Canterbury Tales as an example of that, of going on a pilgrimage. They're going from one holy site to another. And these cathedrals were meant to be slept in by the pilgrims, because they didn't have a place to stay. You just sleep on the pew and wake up
Yeah.
the next day and move on.
I think it's absolutely right, Patrick. I think one of the points, yet again, sorry, bringing it back to banking, but it's really relevant, is that those great cathedrals that were built during that period, 500, 600, 700, 800 years ago, all the way, 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, right through, they were built by a people that weren't paying usury. It didn't exist to the degree that
Spot
it does
on.
today. It didn't
Spot on.
exist. So they're working 14 and 20 weeks of the year. The other 30 weeks of the year, they've got a lot of leisure time to develop their skill as a carpenter or as a worker of metal or whatever it was, or of leather. And slowly but surely, all these sort of little skills in and around these towns would be present, and people would want to contribute because they had the time to do it, and they're not burdened by debt. So what we're looking at is we live in a usurer's utopia. It's a utopia for them, but it's an absolute toilet bowl for us. So
I agree.
buildings are
I'm
put
gonna
up
get
to
go-
fall down in 25 years. They're not designed right. The clothes are crap.
Yeah.
Everything is absolute rubbish, and the bankers are to blame for all of it. All of
I'm
it.
gonna get going here. You think?
If you
for
see
the
any
show.
bankers, Patrick, kick them for me, will you? Just
Yeah,
ask them
I
if
will,
they're bankers.
Paul.
Just give them a good
I'll be
swift
thinking
kick.
of you. Yes.
Yeah, just kick them.
You and Eric and Paul. Yes.
Yeah.
As
All
if,
right.
if you're not on here next week,
Cheers.
Patrick, we'll know. We'll send the bail to you.
Yeah. Send me.
Yeah. Okay, Patrick. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Cheers.
And another thing is bells were actually used as an early warning system in this country. And that was, if we was going to be invaded, I think it's the same with the Second World War, they'd ring the church bells. And there was a certain ring that they would do so that people would know we're being invaded. I'm not sure whether they did that on the continent or not. I don't know. Anybody know? You know. Now it says here, where are we now? Sound vibration and frequency heal us all. Spot on. I haven't read out about a certain thing, DJV2, for obvious reasons, because I just put it on the screen because we're on YouTube. So I just thought, you know, I hope you understand. Now we got here. Oh dear. Hello, I'm early for next week's show. Brilliant, excellent. That's it. Yes, it. Stephen Truthseeker said that I've lived in a tent. That must have been but you got quite a story to tell. And before long, this is Paul Mohammed, we will be like monkeys. If that's not the program, what is? Yes, got a good point. And got here. Funny how this is DJB2. Funny how a lot of the users live in Switzerland. I could say something about that, but not on YouTube, obviously. I'm almost annoyed. Oh, go on, get very annoyed. Make a good job of it. I won't read this out. Yes, I agree, DJB2. Yes. But it's surprising, though, that it's all to do with money and money. And the thing that used to irritate me is, how long will that take you to do? You know, how long is a piece of string? I ask you how long it will take to design something. It's more like saying nail jelly to the ceiling. It's just ridiculous. And it's like anything. You start any job, you dig a garden. Now you might want to dig your garden. You might be able to dig a nice vegetable plot in an hour, but you might hit bricks. You might hit rubble. It might take you days to do. You don't know. And this is the thing. It's the big unknown all the time. But because you worked in architecture, didn't you, Paul E?
Sort of. I worked in a drawing office, which designed modern housing along the Wimpy Barrett Homes line. Yeah, I was responsible for sewage pipes.
Ah, excellent.
My life's always been very close to the shit. Let's put it
I
that
was
way.
going to say, was that a shit job?
Hang on a minute.
It was
And I
a-
used to
it actually
design
was.
ladies. I used to design toilets. So we've both been in the shit, haven't we? Because I was called Crap House
Yeah.
Chris.
I think there's a pattern emerging here. It's probably why we're full
Yes.
of seething resentment about so many things. Yeah, I
Yes.
had to sort of. You have to make sure that the soil pipe from the property obviously has a gradient, so that the waste can tumble down due to the force of gravity or the law of attraction or whatever you want to call it, right? And it can't be too steep, otherwise you get. And it can't be too unsteep. There's a range in which it's got to go. So my job was to get the land survey, find out what all the land heights were from, the foundation of the house, and then I had to plot it around and take it up to the planning office and use these very stinky sulfur printers. I don't know if you ever used those unbelievable
Yes.
things to
Yes.
print these massive documents. They come out sort of grey and brown, and they just stank like mad.
That's
and I
right.
had to go up to Leeds City Council
Skyline.
planning office and say, "Here we go, I brought you all shitty pipe work," and they go, "Oh, that's good, lad." All that kind of
It's
stuff.
die line
Yeah, it was
printing.
great.
That's
lovely.
what it's called.
There was a phrase though in the office that I learned that I like to this day. There was a guy there called Noel who was very lively and a bit of a wide boy, but very a lot of fun. Really into racing motorbikes and stuff like that. And if you made a mistake, of course, on your drawings, you pick up an eraser, don't you?
That's right. Yeah.
And you rub
Or
it
razor
out.
blade.
Yeah. Or a razor blade, yeah. And so a term, if you were useless, was that you were a rub out. In other words, you were like a mistake made. And I go, oh, you rub out. And I've kept that one ever since, you bloody rub
That's
out.
a good one.
And
Bloody rub out,
it's
yeah.
like that, isn't it? It's like, all that banter that builds up in the happy architects' offices and stuff like that. But it wasn't particularly thrilling stuff. I also used to just finish sort of house designs and plans and just take them up. But at least I got to play with rotring pens and ink and stuff and get covered in it every day. And that was quite fun.
It
Quite
gets
enjoyed
ground
that.
into your fingers, and was it 100?
Oh, it's a dangerous job, you know. We need danger money for that.
Hang on, I remember it off by heart. 100 millimeter pipe was 1 in 100. 50 millimeter pipe was 1 in 50, and you did it like that, wasn't it? And it's like door sizes. 926, 826, 726, 526 was the smallest, or 525 as it is.
This is thrilling stuff.
Is it exciting, isn't it? You know,
And you got about my hobbies.
I like to see some nice piping laid, you know, to 1 to 100. And I think you collect shovels, don't you, Paul? I think that's the thing.
I used to collect shovels when I were young. They were very interesting. Lots of different gauges, yes, and joint fittings at the end between the handle. Yes, absolutely.
We known as Doug.
And we like to talk about brazing a lot. We used to talk about
Yes.
brazing and welding. And things. It was very exciting stuff.
Oh, my God, yes.
Hey,
I
you
was just thinking back that job you did with the sewage stuff. I'd imagine, Paul, that they would probably want to keep you on side as much as possible. Because let's be honest, you could really put them in the shit if they really pissed you off.
I know you could. The truth be told, basically, Chris, who was my boss, Chris Tyson, remember his name? He should still be around, kicking. He was a bit of a ladies' man and everything, but a really nice guy, Chris. And he was my first boss for a couple of years until they had to fire me because I was just completely disinterested in what I was doing, and I agreed. But he said to me, look, all you do is you find the highest level and the lowest, and then just make all the numbers up on the survey chart. I went, all right. What it actually meant in reality was that if you actually followed these numbers that I'd put down, parts of the pipe would actually come out of the ground and then go back into it again. So it wasn't actually... Yeah, but they said it doesn't matter because he said when it gets on site, that all goes out the window anyway. They just dig a trench and put it in. They look at it and go, that'll do.
That's right.
And I'm going, yeah, because they know what they're doing, and it worked. Nobody called up 5 years later going, you know that sewage pipe? Yeah, bloody hell. There was none of that. I mean, it's just, tidy it up
And
yourself then.
PVC pipes, the sewage slides a little bit more easier than it does with salt glazed pipes and then things like that.
Do you think there's a future radio show here about sewage pipes? I think.
Oh my God! Yes.
Hey, you what?
I tell you something. There was an old boy I used to work with, and Did you know you clean drawings often with bread? Seriously, bread is a good way of cleaning drawings up. And
That's why it tasted so funny in the office when I used to nick Chris's sandwiches. Bloody hell! Now it's all
There's
coming
no
back.
point. And he had his sandwich, and it was green on the sides, and it's an old cheese sandwich. Just pick it off, and that would be it.
Quite
Oh,
tasty,
lovely!
though.
Yeah.
Yum yum.
Still
Nice.
Still healthier than a certain McDonald's. That's
The people in council planning offices as well, they're made in a factory, aren't they? Because they're extremely strange people, in the sense that they nearly all of them, obviously at a young age, had a personality bypass. It seems as though it had been removed. They must have gone in for an operation or something, as they were humorless, not interesting, and grey. Their shirts were grey. They spoke in a grey way. They didn't speak a lot, and they just looked at paper and ticked it and grunted and things. It seemed to me, I have to tell you, at the age of 18, I wasn't particularly inspired by I didn't sort of aspire to be a county planning officer or anything like that. It didn't strike me as being a sort of particularly exciting way to spend the rest of my life, or any part of it, actually. It was,
But
they weren't interesting fellows. They were not. They
you
were dull,
would have to-
dull.
Yeah, but you'd have to wear a tank top because all wore tank tops, didn't they? Remember that knitted tank tops?
Oh yeah, they did in the 70s. Yeah, they did.
Shirt,
yeah, the tank
tie, and yes,
and the tank
and-
top. Yeah, it was the height of fashion, wasn't it? The tank top. Yeah,
That's
I
right,
did
yes.
have. Did you have one, Eric? Eric, did you have
Yes,
one? That's the
unfortunately, I did. Yes.
I did too.
And,
I did too.
I tell you what did happen though. I bought some. Do you remember those Daymart thermal gloves? Well, I bought some thermal
do.
because I always suffer from cold feet and cold hands. You see, so what they say, cold hands, warm heart. So anyway, I walked into work one day, and these thermal gloves, they say, I've only wore them once. I threw them away after that because I got ragged, something awful. Oh, do your mummy buy them? Oh, do you put a bit of string round here because they're bloody disgusting. They look like your auntie made them. You know? Do you remember? I don't think you get Daymart now, do you? Do they still go? Don't know. But
Oh,
they're thermal
you're
gloves.
bound to. You're bound to. We
Yeah.
should do a big push on it when winter comes in and get everybody here listening to all get their Daymart Thermalactyl underwear. They're tremendous long johns. They make you look even more repulsive than you already look. And
Yes.
this is, you might as well just give in and go for it. It's great, yeah.
But But do you remember repeater mats? Remember those? What they were is you put your rotary repeater graph pens into the thing called a repeater mat, and it's like a big sort of box. You had,
Yes.
and you kept it moist all the time. And you kept the ink moist, so you didn't have to lick the bleeding pen in. Click, 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 and then to draw with it. Yeah, they're called repeater mats, and. One bloke had one. It was absolutely minging because he never changed the water in it. Oh, bloody hell! Had it on the side with the sun shone in and lifted the lid
I
up.
tell you, we're
Oh.
talking about topics here that are blowing my mind, Eric.
We have one on bussing. We have a session on buses at some point then.
Yeah, let's make it spicy. Let's get a bus in here.
Well,
Come on, bloody hell. I'll tell you what I think about bus. You know what? You know the problem with buses was when they got rid of the conductors. As soon
Yes.
as the conductors went and they stopped that that Darwinian race to jump on the bus after it left, and you could make
Yes.
it right. As
Yeah.
soon as they closed it all off and it was dead, they turned them into these hermetically sealed, dull things. But the old route masters, oh look,
Oh, I
God,
like
I need,
them, yeah.
I do need locking up. But the route master was just great because you go, oh, I missed the bus. No, I haven't missed it, and we would leg it like mad. You know, we'd come out of the pub on a Saturday night in Leeds. The last bus would be there, or nearly. I go, I'm getting that, and everybody would have to race like hell, and the conductor would be shouting, "Bugger off!" and all that. And we'd just leap on the back and go, ha ha! And it was great. He didn't kick you off because it was good. We'd made it.
It was
Of course,
nice
a few
and
people
fair.
died, but I mean, I think that's all part of it. Really, it's all part of growing up and being British
Well,
and dead.
Well,
So,
well, that's
you know.
right. But I worked on a project once that was extended, and we finished it on time. You see, so we were given a sort of a notice. So we had a week where we didn't have much to do. You had to look busy. So we made, excuse my language, fart machines. And what it
No.
was,
You?
do that. And what it was, they was handing the project over to another group. So we put our drawing boards up, and it was elastic bands with two ice cream, lolly sticks. And then you sort of
Yes.
raise yourself up. And you go, oh, excuse me a moment. We did it, tied it specially when they had a delegation of the next people coming in for the next project. They must have thought, bloody hell, what are those poor sods eating? Their stomachs must be bad because they hear all these farts going round. But yes, we were very
How old,
immature.
Eric, how old were you when you did this? I'm interested.
I was
It
in
was
my
last week.
20s. I think I was in my 20s or my 30s when we did this.
Good. Well, of course, you're mature by then. This is always
Yes.
a good sign.
Yeah. Well, the
Has
other
that
one
happened
was
yet?
Well,
Growing
with-
up is so overrated. It really is.
Well, I think that you got to have a bit of a laugh, ain't you? You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like when I was at school. We had pictures going up because it's one of these bloody modern architectural type schools. Well, the school I went to, it was awful. It was one of these modern buildings, and it was really cold. Not like an old proper school. It was all sort of like a modern 60s building we was in, and some bright spark must have put. They put all these pictures going up the stairs of I don't know, sort of very oldie worldy pictures of that were particularly very interesting. You know, sort of Westminster Abbey painted by some Henry Bogworthy and all that sort of stuff going up there. And they had the school inspectors coming around one week, and some little sod, don't know who it was, got some pictures out of a Playboy magazine and put up the back of the pictures, you see. And so when the inspectors came in, they thought, must be a very progressive school. And a mate of mine, what he did, because everybody had to be in their best behaviour, wear their school uniform. Mate of mine, what he did, he unscrewed. His mate, his father, I think he was a metal worker, so he brought some screw heads in, unscrewed the handles for the door, and then with chewing gum stuck the handles back. So when the inspectors came, they just pulled the handle and come off in the hand. Terrible it was, sods we were, weren't we? But yes, yeah, I went to a good school. It was approved. Now, what we got here? I'm sure I'm sat here wondering what's happened over the last 7 decades, and modern times are progress once we get a power cut all over in my... Yes, you're probably right, yes. Yeah, look, if we have power cuts, things will all be over. But I've got a feeling things will change. People are getting fed up with it. This crap, because everything is money, 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 money. And I bet you, where you live, Paulie, that, and also our Fockham, Fockham All Rail Transport expert, they've got very old quaint buildings with modern 60s buildings in between, and even more disgusting buildings in between them. Is that like that round where you live?
Yeah, it is, sort of. It is. There's still a lot of fine buildings here. There are Edwardian terraces and things like that, and things built in the 1880s that are still look fantastic. There's a particular stretch here of maybe 20 or 30 of them, which were originally Edwardian, I suppose you would call them maybe townhouses, and families would own the entire thing from the cellar to the attic at the top, and each of them has a total of 5 floors, including the cellar. 5. And they're absolutely fantastic because they're a bit like that house in Mary Poppins where they all live, you know, where you approach the door and there are 2 pillars holding a sort of stone canopy or whatever you would call it over the doorway, and a great big massive doors with massive knockers on them.
Oh, I like massive knockers. I'm very much.
I had to do the seaside double entendre, the cheeky postcard thing, Eric.
Yes.
It wouldn't be wrong of me not to. It is your show after all.
That's right.
And they're absolutely fantastic. Of course, the thing that's really wonderful about all those things is the height of the ceilings. I've always been bemused by this. I know people say it's all Tartarian. I don't think all of it is.
No.
I think there's definitely some hidden technology gone awry, but I think there was a great requirement to project civilization, and you project it probably through fine buildings better than just anything else. It builds up a sort of ambience in the place, and these houses are without a doubt the most desirable. Of course, they've all been turned into flats, effectively, one on each floor, but they're massive flats. So as a house, they would have been enormous. But that's when people were in the productive business of having 8 children, and you needed all those things to get a bit of peace and quiet, you know, and stick grandma in the attic or something, and everybody would look after the family. Wonderful, really. I'm very jealous.
Yeah. Low ceilings cause depression. And the other thing is, if you face a wall, it causes depression as well. Because it comes in at you. And you notice the ceilings have got lower and lower and lower. And
is that why I should start working outside in the garden then, as opposed to in the shed? The shed of doom, where I do work.
Well, it's different in a shed, but in a house itself, if you're all day in a house with a very low ceiling, you'll slowly get depressed. That has that problem, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Anyway, I think we've come near the end of the show. Thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you, everybody in chat. Now, you have a show coming up this Thursday, I believe, Paul. Do you want
I
to
do, and you're more than welcome to join us, Eric, of course. Eli
it's
James
an honour.
will probably he'll be returning for the third hour, and I'm hoping to get him on for the second and third hour. We're going to be talking
Wow.
about the Hazard Circular. Do you know what I'm talking about? Don't worry if you don't. Have you ever heard of the
Critical
Hazard
path?
Circular?
Is it like the critical path where you...
No. No, it's not.
No, what is
No,
the
it's a
hazard
great
circular?
title, though, isn't it? You
It
probably
is.
want a copy. So obviously documents. Well, not obviously, but documents. Some of them used to be called circulars because they were intended to be
Oh,
circulated
that
amongst
type of
many
things.
readers.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and the Hazard Circular is a document that was released mid to late 1800s in America with regards to how the U.S. banking system was overthrown during and towards the tail end of the U.S. war between the states. To call it a civil war is not correct in my view. It's the war between the states. And it's brilliant. It's a brilliant document. And we're going to be talking about it. It obviously taps into the usurers, which I want to talk about. And I just read it this morning. I'll probably provide a link in the description prior to the show. I might even record it because it's about 20 pages, although it needs to be read, I think, in some regard. But it's a wonderful document. It's very, very interesting. It shows you how effectively private banks, the Shitty of London, which is its correct title, the Shitty of London, because the people that work in there are shits. In the shittiest business in the world, and they shit all over everybody. But it shows you how they're able to manipulate effectively the greed of supine politicians. It doesn't matter where they are, here or America or anywhere, we've all got them. These are the problem. And they become the kind of, without them, they wouldn't have much purchase. So there was a thing that Lincoln did to fund the war effort. This is not dissimilar at all to what Bradbury did with the Bradbury pound here in England in 1916. In fact, it's exactly the same. The Bradbury is basically a rerun, in many ways, of the greenback, and the greenback was a copy of something else. It's just a basic principle. And what they did was they issued these things called greenbacks, which were issued by the US Treasury, which means that the citizens owning indirectly the US Treasury, supposedly, as it says on a sheet of paper, were supplying themselves with their own debt-free, interest-free money. And of course, it worked. It worked spectacularly well. And what happened was, and we'll be going into this in some detail, the bankers from London, international agents of garbage, knew what a threat this would be. And so they issued bonds on these greenbacks and sold these bonds so that when it gets complicated, but what happened is as they dismissed the greenbacks, they bought them up with bonds, which meant that the Americans then paid back for something that they originally had, which was free. Of course, people can't get their brains around the idea of money being free, but in comparison to the sort of money that we're furnished with, it can. And it's the root of all wars. When the people combine to overthrow the bank through these mechanisms, the bankers effectively suborn and corrupt and bribe and threaten people in high positions of power. They usually pay them off with vast sums of money. And their lust for instant wealth is greater than their concern for the welfare of the nation. And there's a lot of numbers and figures in there. It shows you how the US economy was decimated by this, absolutely destroyed between 1865 and about 1878. It took them about 12 years to completely wipe out the industrial base of America, to plunge loads of people into unemployment, millions of people, all because they simply contracted the money supply by forcing them onto a private token system called, in our case, the Bank of England. And it's a very boring topic unless you understand the key, which is,
I don't think it is.
that this is. It does. When you describe it, I tried it out on a neighbour today, and it wasn't too bad actually. And I just said to him at the end, I just said, look, the problem with what I've just said to you is you're now about one man in 500,000 that knows this in England, and unfortunately for you, I said, I'm not trying to be insulting, but in about an hour, you'll forget this because you're going to watch TV. I said, it's not your fault, by the way. This is the problem. The communications challenge is huge because of the distractathon that's going on. People can't sit long enough to work out the solution to this problem because A, they don't know that this problem exists. B, when you describe it, it's in language that is completely alien to them. So how do you expect them to comprehend it? But it remains the great fight. And I quoted him, Lord Acton, and I'll be quoting Lord Acton again on Thursday. He's the guy that said, the one he's really known for is power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is spot on. But the other one, which is much more pertinent to this and pertinent to the ruination of architecture, to be quite honest, as I mentioned earlier, it's all
100% agree,
linked in.
Yes, I agree with you.
He said the fight, I'm paraphrasing, he said, the fight that has come down through the centuries and will have to be resolved sooner or later is the fight between the people and the banks. And this is, there's some amazing English guys as well, Lord somebody or other, who was part of this effort to try and stave off what he saw as this insidious plan by bankers. And of course, if you're listening to the economic news right now, you're hearing garbage all the time because there is a solution. It's all garbage. It's not worth becoming knowledgeable in the field of economics. You're an arsehole if you do so because you are playing with less than half a deck of knowledge. And most of these economists don't know how central banking actually works, that it's a private scam, it's a bunch of spivs and mafia. And until you've thrown that off, there is no economics. It's none of it. It's all a joke. And
one thing, they're also terrified that we'll find out. They're keeping this scam going, and you think about it, look at it from their point of view. If enough people find out about it, they are running. They're terrified because they're
until we find a series of magic bullets, and I do believe they're out there because I've got to wake up in the morning and have some kind of positive outlook on things. Until they don't have too much to worry about because they've got the control of people's attention span. That's the key thing. I mean, I saw something as well. This is just slightly as an aside, and then I'll put a sock in it. Some guy, a little video of some guy in the 1980s doing a presentation, talking about how you solve any problem at all. And this is so true. He said, what you do is you've got your problem and it's bungling away in there. You must take yourself outside of your normal day.
I saw that, yes.
Did you see it? Find a room where it's very quiet, sit still for after about 30 minutes, be completely quiet, calmly think on the problem or whatever you want to do. Go extremely quiet. Find that quiet place inside you, and the answers will start to come. The problem, he said in the presentation, and this is the main one, he said, our lives are so busy, and this is the late 80s, so think what it's like now with the great, smartphone, stupid phone holder situation that we've got, is that people can't find 5 seconds to stop thinking about the junk that's just been thrown at them. And we don't have any sane spaces. And going back to good architecture as well, and these big, huge buildings, they have a certain energy in them that causes you to calm down, don't they? Like you were saying about high ceilings, and all these things are interlocked. They all come together and you breed a better class of person. And by class, I mean in terms of intellect, physiology, outlook, demeanor, joy, happiness, cheekiness, all of these positive things that we want back. They will happen far, far more easily when you're surrounded by beautiful buildings because you go, hey, I'm with a bunch of people here that want to create beauty in the world and make it better, as opposed to, oh, I'm with a bunch of idiots that are creating boxes and making me feel miserable all the time. And this rubs off subconsciously. So in the end, bankers. That's really
it. I like what DJ B2 said. He says, funny how the entertainment industry, the legal system, the banking system and the medical system is infected with the same kind of person. That is a brilliant one. He is spot right on there. Absolutely,
it's all to do with distraction. Yeah. It's a massive distraction. And you think it is. Hollywood is now a sinkhole of the most lowest level distraction nonsense. The plots in films are so thin, they're a joke. And all the sophistication of structured storytelling has been lost. And this is why I talk about these old books. You go back, people need to maybe sit down and try and read a Dickens novel. Try, because most people won't be able to do it, because it requires persistent study time, as it were, that you put aside each day to get into it. But when you can do that, you're going to win. You're going to win. Well, because if you're in a discussion with someone who's fully stocked up with knowledge and you're not, you can't hold your own. It's not possible to do it.
Well-
The communication from the other side will overwhelm you. So
I
there you
think
go. You
these
just got to be
peop-
chilled.
That's right. But I think these people, what we're having all the time is fear, 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 and I think they're in shock, and I really do believe that. And it's a kind of shock that's been put into people because what possesses. I mean, I was walking around the supermarket the other day, and all right, I'm no oil painting, but people at one time would make themselves look attractive. People are going out of their way to make themselves look ugly. I mean, I was looking around thinking, what is wrong with people? There's sort of tats all over, piercings and sort of,
They're demoralised,
obese.
Eric. They're just
right.
demoralised.
They are
They don't
totally
tune into
demoralised,
this
yeah.
show or shows like this to cheer up. It is important to even be falsely happy. Just pretend to yourself. Just, like, ha, 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 that sort of disconnected laughing. Anything will do to break
I
the
agree.
moment, to break the mist, the fog that they plunge everybody into. It's just not good for us.
But the
And,
point is that they probably follow the celebrities that they see. Because, I mean, I've probably said before, but if you watch things like the Die Hard films, for example, and
Yeah.
Bruce Willis, and in Die Hard, I think it's the third one, where he's in the back of the van and he asks for some tablets, and you think, well, these people would see if Bruce Willis was one of their favourite actors, and they see him taking tablets, then they'll go and do the same. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that's where all this stems from. They
I'm
see
positive it does.
if they saw their celebrity fans going and I don't know, purchasing some healthy food, then maybe people out there would actually be healthier and
Yeah.
start looking after
Yes.
themselves.
Absolutely
They
right,
follow.
Paul. Monkey see, monkey do, and we're all prone to it. It's a permanent sort of scrap in your life every day. And the best way to deal with it, is to have a peer group like this, where you get supportive communication to keep on reinforcing a clearer and better view of the world and of your life. I just think
agree.
it's
But
absolutely
positive.
vital. Yeah,
Be
a
positive
one.
all the time. That's the main thing. Now, your show is on 8 o'clock UK time, Thursday, and it's Paul English Live on Rumble. So
It is.
if you go onto Rumble, Paul English Live, and there's someone on there that tells smutty gags. I don't know who it could be, And,
I know, we
Who
tried
does
to get
that?
the bugger off, but we just can't get
I
him to
know.
be quiet, Eric. It's just a pain. It's just unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
just smut this and smut that,
I
toilet
know.
humour here. I don't know what
Terrible.
to do about it, really. It's terrible, really.
Where
It's
did you
like-
find
I
him,
need a
Paul?
radio bouncer, but I just can't find one.
Where did you find this character?
I don't know.
Well, it's been great tonight. Really enjoyed the show. I'm sorry I've been swearing a little bit like a trooper, but I usually do when I'm talking about architecture because it's a little bit close to my heart. So thanks both Pauls for coming on, much appreciated, and Patrick, of course, who's had to zoom off. And please tune in, as I say, this Thursday, 8:30, Paul English Live on Rumble, and then on Sunday we've got a show coming up, and on next Monday. So that's if I'm not banned. So thank you very much. And anything more you'd like to say to the chat or audience? Any, Paul?
My usual thing is tag the like and thank you for listening and
Thank
hope
you.
it's been good.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you for saying
great.
that. Much appreciated. And all I've got to say is, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh and good night. Thank you very much for watching the show. And if you could kindly put the thumbs up, I'd be really grateful. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps a lot. And of course, if you're feeling a little bit generous, you could always buy me a coffee. Details are down in the description box. And also, why not pop in to see my Telegram channel, which again is down in the description box, which you can link onto, and Facebook as well. And thank you very much, and either good night